Yep. I'm gonna explain it to you guys.
Well, they need to be plugged in.
We don't need that. Is that the speaker right at the top of it?
All right, call this meeting to order August 11th, 2022 at 6 p.m. This is a city council work session. And first order of business. I've got a little something to read here. Our city administrator, James Clevenger. I'm going to read this first, actually. August 11th, 2022, effective immediately, all city of Oakridge owned flags have been lowered to half staff and will remain so through Monday, August 15th, in honor of the fallen wildland firefighter, Colin Hagan of the Craig Interagency Hotshots, who was killed in the line of duty on August 10th, 2022, while he engaged in firefighting efforts on the Big Swamp Fire on the Willamette National Forest. In addition, a memorial wreath is being made and will be displayed on the flagpole in front of City Hall by the end of day. On behalf of the City of Oakridge, city employees, and all Oakridge citizens, we wish to express our deepest condolences and gratitude to Mr. Hagan and his family and his fellow crewmates. Mr. Hagan's service, dedication, and ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty will not be forgotten. Sincerely, James Clevenger, Oakridge City Administrator, Christina Hollett, Oakridge City Mayor, and all of City Council. So we're going to take a moment and go outside and lower the flag.
We've already lowered the flag and placed the wreath.
Okay, we're going to go outside and place the wreath. So for those of you on Zoom, you'll have to excuse us for just a moment.
Walk. It's great to see you all.
Speed line, sorry. Everybody off.
All right, for those on Zoom, we are still trickling back in here, but just so for transparency, for those that weren't able to join us in person, we put a wreath on an easel outside the flagpole outside that James prepared. And we did the Pledge of Allegiance outside as well. Took a moment of silence and said some kind words. We're going to begin our meeting. So first order of business is roll call.
Mayor Howard,
Here.
Councilor Keenan. Here. Councilor Splitter.
Here.
Councilor Bjornson. Here. Councilor Coker. Here. Councilor Hooker. Here. Councilor Whitney.
Oh, she's excused. Thank you. Today is a work session, and work sessions are intended for counselors to discuss, work through a topic, and there is no public comment, and we generally do not take questions from the public. However, we do have staff here that will be giving us reports. The topic for tonight is 4.1, the discussion of the public safety fee. And right off the bat, I'm going to allow anyone has any conflicts to declare. I'll go first. I have an actual conflict, so I will not be partaking in the discussion, and I will not be voting when this comes to council meeting. However, we are not voting tonight. My conflict is that my spouse is an employee of the city of Oakridge under a collective bargaining agreement. Is there any more? Go ahead, Melissa Bjornson.
I'm declaring a potential conflict of interest because I'm on the volunteer roster at the fire department.
Thank you. And any more on Zoom? Or in the audience? Okay. So let's go ahead and start, James.
I don't know how you want to start. I was able to collect the status report from all four departments. Obviously, the public safety unit for police and fire. However, there is kind of a trickle down effect in budgeting to all departments. And things they're not receiving money directly from public safety, but we take a hit anywhere on the shift, it affects the shift. Have all four departments write reports, that we emailed out to council. Department heads are here, with the exception of Robert, Public Works, and he has a written report that everyone can read as well.
So we have a report from the police department, the fire emergency department, water department, one from finance, and then we also have a copy of Councilor Kenyon's report from the last meeting. Or is this new?
No.
I'm sorry. This one
Last meeting.
from
I
last
didn't
meeting?
either, but yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I think what will be best, is there one from the city administrator?
Sorry, what?
Is there a report from you directly, or is it
Not one
finance?
from me directly. Just from-
Okay. Let's start out with
from-
finance director. Is she in here still?
Just
Okay. Chief, you want to start first?
Sure.
Okay, we're gonna start with the police.
Do you just want me to read this again and then we can questions or
It might be helpful for folks online.
Can you guys hear?
Someone wants them.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, we can hear.
You're there, okay? Eric, can you hear us okay?
Yep, you're coming in loud and clear.
Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna do first report from Chief Martin.
Okay, Mayor, Council, citizens, CA asked us to do some reports, so Sergeant McPherson and I, who I believe is online up there in our office, kind of just did some historical data for you. I'll just read it to you real fast. During the period of 2011, 2012, the Oakridge Police Department lost the following positions: a deputy chief, 1 patrol officer, 1 full-time code enforcement officer, and 3.5 dispatchers. The Oakridge Police Department East Lane Dispatch lost control of 911 answering system, and the Oakridge East Lane Dispatch Center closed. Prior to this event, the staffing level was police chief, deputy chief, 4 full-time officers, 1 full-time code enforcement officer, and 1 full-time communication sergeant, and 4 full-time communications officers, for a total of 12 employees. After this event, we had a chief, communication sergeant, 3 officers, and a half-time dispatch clerk, for a total of 5.5 employees. In 2013, the sergeant's position was brought back and to fill the deputy chief position, for a total of 6.5 employees. And then in 2015, a half-time code position was brought back for a total of 7 employees. In 2018, we lost the code position and went back down to 6.5 employees. And to clarify, the code position was a half-time position at that point. In 2020, we lost the half-time dispatch clerk and general funding for half of a patrol officer. Outside funds then paid for half the community service officer who did code and half patrol. So if some of you may remember being on council, then that is when I don't know what they were called at first, and I can't remember if it was a grant or just a funding process. That's when we got money from EPA DEQ that went through LRAPA. And so we paid for part of a position with that. But we lost instead of bringing on a code officer, we lost half of the patrol position. So that was kind of the status quo with the grant money. We lost funds out of general fund, but we got them back with the funding from the outside source. But the initial intent was to hire a half-time code officer, which did not happen at that point because of funding. And then in 2021, the duties of the community service officer were spread across all patrol positions, mostly because we had an officer going admin leave at that point, and so we were down staff. So, and then historically for the smoke stuff, all of our full-time officers have gone to smoke school to help with that project and that funding. And then here's a snapshot of the last 5 years of the Oakridge Police Department fiscal year budgets. So they've gone up and down, and historically, I don't completely know why they went up and down each time, because as you all know, every year pretty much our employee costs all go up regardless of what department it is.
Usually grants,
Yeah.
just.
And in confusing times for the budget then, I was probably the only department head. I think Scott probably helped some too, but we would do a budget, and then the current administration at the time would do what they do, different things with our budget. So I believe that, especially with police and fire at those times, it didn't truly reflect what police and fire wanted, because the administration would change the budget as they saw fit. The police department staffing has gone down in the past 10 years, and the funding has gone up and down. Approximately $135,980 has been cut from the Oakridge Police Department since 2018 in staffing, and that includes half-time code, half-time clerk, and then half-time patrol officer, with no reduction in duties for the remaining staff. Both police department and city hall staffing has affected the police department operations. No local dispatch, loss of support staff from 5 people to 1. So to put that in perspective, Sergeant McPherson does the job of the same or similar job besides the actual answering the phone and dispatching officers. But as far as paperwork is concerned, she does the job that 5 people were doing before. And part of that time, she did have a half-time clerk position until that went away. So originally it went from 5 people to 1.5, and then just to 1 for paperwork. And to relate that to operations, when you had 5 people helping officers with reports and paperwork and stuff like that, it left a lot more time for officers to do work on the street. Limited opportunity for community involvement, limited opportunity to be proactive with code, traffic, and community engagement while on duty, as we've gone up and down in staffing. Original staffing and budgetary crisis over these years is a continuous stressor and is affecting employee wellness and mental health. If further budget cuts need to be made, we would need to reduce staffing. This model is not sustainable, as we've experienced it recently with employee shortages. For example, the loss of the halftime code enforcement officer and the community service director has greatly reduced the city's ability to enforce our codes. Code enforcement position and support for the position is particularly important and it is needed, but is lacking in funding shortfalls. All department heads and their staff have had to take on more responsibilities than their peers in other agencies. And that's just kind of a data piece we made for you guys that a lot of this is history that Michael knows that I don't know because part of it was happened before me. Anybody that's been here a long time knows we had that crunch that I believe has put us in the place we are now in 2011, 2012. So for me, it's chief, and I don't want to sound like greedy, like we need more money, but to me, one of the most important things for the city that we're lacking right now is code enforcement and funding for the code enforcement to do abatements. So as we have to do budget cuts, that's my dream wish that we get. And it wouldn't matter to me if the code worked for me or if they worked directly for the city administrator or whatnot, but I know all of you know, drive around and have neighbors and all that. And that one of the biggest things that we've had code over the years, but we've never really had any money to abate stuff since I've been here. Robert could speak to it, but we remember we tore one house down and I want to say it was in the tens of thousands of dollars that we had to pay just for the dumping fees for the garbage type thing. We had to get inspected all first. But there's lots of places that we need to do that. And then as far as the law enforcement position, I'll put it bluntly, Valerie's doing a lot right now as one person. And so I don't want to see it. I would not like to see us go back to that and be so short-staffed. Michael was trying to figure it out, but at one point in time in recent history, the police department had 7 officers. And historically, Rick could probably attest to this from when he got chased around when he was a kid, not to put him on the spot, but at some point in time, Oakridge had 11 or 12 officers back in the day. So yeah, and at one point they had a chief, a deputy chief, and a lieutenant, a sergeant, and officers, so and a code person full time. So for me, it's a balance of the funds and figuring it out. My personal opinion is Kevin Martin, citizen and police chief, is I think there should be some sort of public safety fee, but I think it should be, and I don't know how to answer this question, or it's a tough thing for you as a council and James, is to be able to project it so it's the correct amount. That's and I don't know how to do that until you extrapolate a couple years data. It's just as we're going into the future, I think funding could go up and down where you need it and you don't need it. So I have no golden ticket answer for that. But my door is open if people have questions or whatnot. And Sergeant McPherson's here too. She can help with questions if it is police department specific. But again, for me, the biggest shortfall is the code enforcement. Frankly, we're getting 2 people on and working, but going into the future, it would be really nice to have a code position somewhere in the city that could enforce our codes and improve the livability and take some stress off the officers, and so they can put bad guys in jail. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to try to keep this really organized and open up questions for counselors, and we're going to stay on the police topic first. So kind of ask you questions department by department. So counselors, questions for Chief Martin or Michael, we have are available too. Counselor Kingen?
Can you describe what kind of duties were spread across the patrol positions with the last community services officer?
Mostly the El Rapa stuff, the smoke stuff, because that grant they call it a co-grant, but the grant really is specific to duties we have to do with the smoke reading during all year round, but specifically during they've changed it so many times, the kind of March, starting in the March part when we usually have the red days. We've been lucky. We've been lucky the last at least this last year with the pouring down rain for so long, so we didn't have the issues we had in the past stuff. But everybody does the smoke stuff when they work day shift. So yeah, during those winter months when we have I don't believe we had a red day last year at all, but we had some yellow days. So
But we did have a code enforcement person doing that for a while.
yeah, so even prior to prior to the cut to code enforcement, officers still were helping with this, the smoke reading. But the code person was the one specifically that worked for that halftime code position.
Did that grant in?
No, we didn't have a grant back then. So when we had the halftime code person, we did not have a grant. That was just that's city funding. So
That was when it was, what was her name?
Oh, you're
yeah,
talking about.
Courtney Rollins
Yeah,
did that.
I
Yeah.
was talking
Yeah.
about.
So that we lost that position in 2018. And part of that was that Courtney left and current administration at the time didn't fill the position to save money. So
But I was referring to the current, or the most recent grant funding that we were getting from the RAPA to
Yeah.
help pay for part of Valerie's for code enforcement.
yeah, but Valerie has bumped up in seniority and there's no one to fill that position. So, and even we probably, I think technically Colleen can still, I didn't even know this the other day, but I think it still shows as her wage.
It does, and we need to correct that. I talked to Michael about it.
Yeah, but we have all of the patrol officers go to smoke. It's literally called smoke school. And
Okay, so we're still getting the grant funding, it's just being dispersed across the whole department.
well, technically speaking, was still in Valerie's, but as we bring new people on, Valerie said, I don't want to be the point person anymore, and because of our union contract, she does not have to be. So
Okay.
that will probably go down to the lowest denominator there. So because we still have to have one, it's hard, especially because Michael has to do the reports, so it's easier for everyone to do the smoke reading, but one person kind of be the point person for keeping track and stuff, because we have to do reports to. We do reports to the good company, and then I believe Michael can correct me, but I think they send them on to DEQ and EPA and LRAP. So, but part of that grant pays for good company, and I don't know if Colleen or James knows, but how many more years we have on that?
I think I just looked at it the other day.
It's a few.
It's 2, I think.
True.
I think.
I think they got a big piece of other money, but it's for other stuff, so. And the history with that is, if not everybody knows, I know Jan knows, because Jan helped with it a lot when she was there, but that thing, there's teeth from EPA because we're in this weird attainment area. There's a handful of towns in the US that are like us, and it's all similar to geographic location that we are. It's towns in a mountain, in a valley, in the mountains. So, but not to digress too much off into code enforcement, since we're here for other stuff.
I think that's relative still.
Because that's one last pitch for that. It's part of the code stuff. It's a thing we're shackled with that we probably will be for years, because now they're talking about making it the standard even lower. So it'd be harder for us to meet the standard.
Is there any more police questions for police?
And one other thing I'll shout out for all the council is wish list. We really have to get some money somewhere as we go forward, even with cuts, to figure out how to abate stuff. Because sometimes that stuff keeps me up at night. It's getting rid of some of our junky houses and buildings, because unfortunately we can write them tickets, but we can't make them fix it until we basically do it ourselves. So
Counselor Coker?
So since 2018, has crime gone up or down?
I'd have to look at all the stats. It goes back and forth, because the way you look at crime stats, our crime stats are usually below average, but then someone gets murdered. And because we have a small population, that really raises the crime rate. So, because the violent crime is what raises crime rates. Basically murder, rape, robbery, arsons with death, stuff like that, which we don't have a whole lot of. But when we have one of those, events where we had a couple of years where we had the double homicide, that really raises our crime rate. So it's hard to extrapolate that, because property crime in Oregon overall, just the property crime is raising, it does every year.
What about us? Has the alcohol gone up?
Well, Michael, remind me this on Monday. We will try to, I don't know if we'll get soon enough for the next council meeting, but we can get some of I believe she can pull some of the crime stats off of our reporting process for that.
Any more questions for police department? Okay. Counselor Slido?
How much longer are we gonna have, over here?
They're technically done already.
We're done.
Yeah, they did their last shift last night, actually.
Okay.
We're hoping we can get somebody, one more person this weekend, but it doesn't look like it, so.
Are we getting closer to the new officer starting?
One starts Monday, one starts Tuesday. They both already been here, some doing paperwork stuff, but
Thank you, Chief.
So, are we gonna have enough, for the Caden cast?
yes, Charlie and Neil, the reserves are doing Kagan Cast, so.
Great, James, would you want to do the one for the water report?
Sure.
Thank you, Chief Barton.
Yes.
Okay, so this report from Public Works, by Robert Christman. Public Works generally would and has operated with a total of 9 employees in the city of Oakridge. We are currently operating with 6. It is unlikely we will ever get caught up completely with all Public Works tasks and duties down 3 employees. The department does not have a director as well, causing us to use LCOG and pay them as needed. A rough estimate of cuts Public Works has faced is about $400,000 a year. The department should have a Public Works director, maintenance supervisor, crew leader, 2 sewer plant operators, 2 utility workers, a parks utility worker, and a building manager. As it is now, we have a maintenance supervisor, crew leader, 2 half-time sewer plant operators, and 2 utility workers. Major expenditures coming up in the future include a land purchase of property the sewer plant currently leases from the Forest Service. We have no choice. The Forest Service is requiring us to purchase that property within the next 3 years. Water system maintenance of PRVs and pump control valves, upwards of around $40,000 are expected. Sewer plant upgrades due to the age of the plant could exceed $100,000. Generator replacements at several locations to keep the city running in emergency situations, upwards of an additional $400,000. Now, we did get some 2 generators, right, from grants, but 2 more are needed to have them all run. Old equipment that's costing more to repair daily, stormwater system upgrades to meet the TMDL requirements, that's the Department of Environmental Quality, which we just received a warning letter about. Then there is a levy that is in constant need of repairs due to Mother Nature and her way of telling us she's the boss. As much as I hate to say this, the public safety fee should remain in place and should cover costs to maintain all services offered by the city. If we don't have the funds to operate, we don't have the ability to operate. Robert Christman, maintenance supervisor, public works.
Do you have any more to add to that, James, before we take questions?
Just that I can attest that the future costs at water treatment center are pretty high. DQ came and did an assessment of was my first day on the job, so 3 weeks ago or so, and pointed out a number of things that need to be upgraded, replaced, and fixed. And in addition to the land sale where we have to purchase this land from the Forest Service that we've been leasing until now. And I think it was a couple of years ago, the Forest Service gave us 5 years. I think we're 2 years in, we have 3 years left to do that. And of course, property values are increasing. So those costs are real. That there are some grants that will cover some of these expenditures, but the water treatment stuff is it's going to be costly, and it is within the next 2 to 5 years. Those purchases will have to be made for the upgrade.
All right, counselors, any questions for water department for James? Go ahead, Counselor Slido.
Yes, can you tell us how much the purchase of the land is going to be? One question.
I wish I could, but those negotiations have stopped and started under the administrations, and we haven't come back to that yet. Now we're doing fires, so it'll be a while before we get back to that. So I don't know.
Okay, another question is that we have to buy it. Is there any way that we can lock in the price now instead of waiting 3 more years when property goes back up?
Yeah, obviously, I'm gonna try to do everything I can. My understanding is that the previous conversations that they seem not to be willing to give us, some kind of sweetheart of a deal sort of thing. So it's gonna be somewhat close to fair market value, not like if you wanted to sell your house to your kids for $1. It's not gonna be like that. We've had good partnerships with the Forest Service, so I'm not gonna rip us off, but yeah, we've either got to buy that property, or otherwise they're gonna stop leasing it to us, and then we're really in trouble, because then we'll have to pay to remove equipment and stuff that is on that property.
And then purchase another piece of property?
Well, but it would be from the Forest Service again. Or move the entire plant, and that would cost millions.
Okay.
So that property is out by the sewer plant.
Right, it's off the Wood Road.
So there's no way that we know how much it could be? Is there any way we can get an assessment of that?
I need to see if that can be public knowledge from, and those were my negotiations. I will look into it for you.
Okay. Well, at least council could get the knowledge of it, that way we know what to prepare for.
Okay, let's get back on topic.
Yes.
Is there any other counselor questions about the water department? Counselor Kenyon?
I was just wanting to clarify that the sewer plant that we need to buy the property would obviously come out of the sewer fund, not the water fund.
I would like to pass that question off to my friend Don Kenyon, who might know better. I'm sorry, I'm still learning. I don't know, but
Yeah,
I will find out.
I think it would, because that wastewater fund is for wastewater, so we would need to be planning for that, but I imagine the report was just written from the perspective of public works as a whole,
Yes.
even though it's multiple funds.
And just one note, because I do remember, one of the hard parts is a lot of that funding for sewer and water comes from USDA. And USDA can't loan money to buy USDA property. There's something weird with that.
That was gonna be my question, was do we know if we can get loans to buy the property?
I'm sure we could probably get loans, but the problem, I remember something to the effect, there's something to do with, because the umbrella United States Department of Agriculture does the Forest Service and the people that do the community service grant type stuff. Property still belongs to the USDA up here, so there was something with that where I don't believe we could use USDA, which is the common grants for us to use.
Good to know, so, darn it, I might have just lost it, but I think that, oh, I know, planning obviously for those things needs to be discussed probably in budget sessions, but ultimately, the water and wastewater really don't have anything to do with public safety here, which is the reason I'm here today. So.
Any more questions on the water department for James? Okay, next one we are going to tackle is emergency services. Do we want to squeeze in maybe up here so people can see on camera?
Do you want to just read?
You might be able to squeeze in between Michelle and Ron. There we go.
That better?
There we go. Nice and cozy.
Can't drink my water level.
Thank
Dear-
you, James.
Ready?
Yes, it's ready.
Dear counselors, emergency services has struggled particularly over the last 3 years without a fire chief to lead the day-to-day operations of the fire department and personnel. We additionally lost one full-time firefighter paramedic over a year ago, which brought us from 5 full-time staff down to 3. Because of those cuts, we have experienced difficulty staffing response units, especially when we have multiple emergency calls simultaneously. It's difficult to function on a day-to-day basis when there simply is not enough staff to manage all the aspects of fire, ambulance, and life safety that must be done. This year, we were able to add back the fire chief's position due to addition of the public safety fee. In a short time, we have made significant forward progress to stabilize our volunteer and part-time staff. After adding the fire chief's position back into the budget, we did have to make significant cuts in other areas, even with the public safety fee. And you can see the list there. Our overtime went from 91,000 down to 70,000. Our volunteer stipend pay went from 62,000 down to 47,000. Materials and supplies went from 15,700 down to 9,000. And our seasonal workers, part-time workers went from 197,000 to 120,000, with an overall M&S from 467,630 to 417,250. There's more to this story within these cuts. The reduction in overtime is dependent upon having more part-time staff, but it takes approximately $240,000 to have one part-time employee 24/7, 365. The only way to reduce the need for part-time staff is to utilize more volunteers, but to have 2 volunteers every day, the actual cost is $73,000. Currently, there is $120,000 budgeted for part-time staff and only $47,000 for volunteers. There is a plan to reduce costs, but it will take time to get to that point. The purpose of the public safety fee was to stabilize the emergency services fund until we can form a district or find more revenue sources. The emergency services department has survived at critically low levels with a budget that does not fund our training needs or even uniforms for the number of members that we have. We do not have equipment or vehicle replacement plan. We are currently down an ambulance due to safety and reliability of that unit. We have a 2012 ambulance with over 200,000 miles and 2017 with 150,000 miles. Our 1991 rescue unit is unreliable and is a high priority to replace. We need personal protective equipment for firefighters. Turnouts alone cost over $1,500 each. That does not include outfitting firefighters with suspenders, helmets, boots, gloves, flashlights, hoods, etc. Our current budget line for PPE is $1,000. Additionally, there will be an increase in our dispatch services due to the loss of the LCSO dispatch contract. Central Lane Dispatch is the best and most logical service to provide our dispatch. However, that will be an additional $23,000 above what we currently pay. Looking at the adopted budget, I was hopeful that we'd be able to allocate ARPA funds to some of the critical low line items by a supplemental budget. Not in the least extravagant, but to replenish those line items that have sustained these critical levels for years. If the public safety fee is eliminated, then I must instead cut an additional $20,000 from the budget that has no fat to trim. I do not believe the public safety fee is a perfect answer. However, we need time to look at additional resources for funding. Regarding emergency services, I plan to take advantage of all available grant resources, apply for the SAFER grant for staffing, apply for the AFG for equipment replacement, a full-time staffing grant from the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office. I'm currently working on an apparatus grant with the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office. And digging into community paramedicine, all as additional revenue sources. While forming a special district could be a solution to funding for emergency services, It will take time. In addition, Medicare is currently doing a study that we are participating in. The intent is to determine new reimbursement rates that will reflect actual costs for emergency service providers to operate. We are already seeing some of this with the GEMT program, which brought in an additional 90,000 this last fiscal year and an additional 40K in the previous fiscal year. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I am confident we know how to get there. At least in the short term, I believe we need the public safety fee to maintain a reasonable level of public safety service to our citizens and keep our responders safe.
All right, counselors, questions for Chief Olive? Counselor Keenan.
So I a little confused about where it says that this year we were able to add back the fire chief due to the addition of the public safety fee. And I'll preface that with the public safety fee is a new revenue amount in your department. However, your tax revenue that you've been getting for many years got depleted by the same amount. Your fund actually went down by about $7,000 for the year. So I don't understand how that, I mean, I appreciate that the department now has a chief. I think that's been long overdue. And I think you guys are doing an excellent job with what you have, but explain how the public safety fee helped with that.
Well, if we had not received the public safety fee, in addition to making the cuts that we did, we would have had to make more cuts. And
Or we would use the tax revenue like we always do, is what I would think. And that's what mine.
but we're not, I mean, we're only one department and every department is dependent upon that tax revenues with the exception of the water department. And, you know, we all have to take a bite out of that. If anybody does have any questions, wants to. Fire department.
And we'd like to,
Already muted.
I'm more than willing to answer questions and make things more clear.
Go ahead, Counselor Cooper.
How many volunteers do we currently have?
We just brought, I think, 3 new volunteers on. We put 7 through a firefighter 1 academy, but some of those were already current volunteers. And then we just had a meeting on Tuesday where there were another 4 additional people that just came on. So we have a total of about 16, but getting all those people, number 1, getting them active, and number 2, getting them trained to a level where they can actually respond or drive the medic unit, you know, wherever we need them. This takes a little bit of time. They are going up. We've been heavily recruiting and it's been working.
Thank you, sir.
Counselor Kenyon, did you have another one? I saw you go, aha.
Oh, it actually reminded me about a question in the water department, but I'm not gonna go backwards.
We can do go backs later if we need to. Any other department or questions for emergency services?
I think it might be helpful to go back to Chief Martin and for him to explain what it takes to be a volunteer reserve police officer, because I've seen on Facebook, a lot of people are asking, why can't we get more volunteers to be police? Be volunteer police officer, what does it take? Can you just?
Yeah, I can go through that. Basically speaking, with all the police reform, to be a volunteer police officer, you have to do everything that a full-time officer has to do. except for the full-time academy. And you have to, we send people to the Lane County, it's a combo between Lane County Community College and Lane County Sheriff's Department Reserve Academy. We have, good news is we have one person in backgrounds right now. So we have a retired EPD lieutenant doing his background check right now as we speak. So hopefully that'll be good news soon. But another thing with police reform, from our insurance company to our Oregon state legislators to everything, with all the negative police sentiment, they don't want reserves working by themselves anymore. So they're hitting us small departments like Coburg and Oakridge that have reserves that work by themselves. Currently, we have one reservist that can work by himself, our Lieutenant Ritz that does a lot of our Lowell stuff, but probably after him, no one will ever work by themselves ever again. And what I mean work by themselves is they'll still do Kagan cast and shop with a cop and stuff like that, but working the street, answering calls and being a primary officer, it just, if something happened, that's too much liability for the city, and our insurance company they're drifting towards not wanting to, they're not saying don't have reserves, but they're saying is we don't want reserves acting as police officers, so full-time police officers. So the days of having a bunch of volunteer reserve officers that go to calls by themselves is over for all departments. So it's hard to explain to citizens that yes, we have reserve officers, and Lieutenant Ritz is an exception because I trust him as, if much not more than any other employee I've ever had at any department I've looked at. That's just, but going forward, it's good to have volunteers for us that, you know, can help the officers and Michael and I and that kind of stuff, but they don't. And the other thing is for our small, I'd love to have a bunch of reserve, but I can only afford so many. I mean, just putting on the 2 new officers, I would be reaching out there because I don't know for sure, but the cost of just getting a little bit of uniforms and bullet resistant vests for the 2 new full-time officers is so much more than the last time we hired someone, just because of inflation, I guess. But vests are more, handcuffs are more. Just I thought I was going to spend about $100 or $1,000, $1,100 per person, and now I've spent probably close to $3,000, and I haven't even got all their stuff yet. So, and we're recycling like guns and a lot of duty gear we already had. So goes back to that with us too. So, but I've got 2 more. Also have 2 more. One's a retired, he was a Federal Protective Services officer that's interested, and there's a retired Idaho State Trooper that's interested in being reserved. So hopefully we get them up and going if they follow through.
Councilman Hooper?
Real quick, volunteers to do code enforcement. They don't need that type of level of schooling or anything, correct?
No,
Or
they
how-
don't. They don't. But as Michael and I have talked a lot of times, it depends on the person, because sometimes we get people that,
Right.
I don't know how to say this, but you get a volunteer that takes so much of your time, it's not even worth it. So
Right.
it's getting the right people in there, because we've talked about a volunteer code person too. And we've actually, that's something probably premature, and I hope James doesn't beat me for saying it, but we've kind of had some negotiations with Westford and Lowell to, I don't know if we'll get to you before budget time or it'll be in the next budget time, but Lowell pays for a quarter, Westford pays for a quarter, and we pay for a half of the code person. So share the costs, and basically they work the same amount of time in each jurisdiction as they pay for, if that makes sense. So quarter in Lowell, quarter in Westford, and a quarter in Oakridge with some kind of administrative overhead to take up the cost, so especially that Michael has to do to help them with.
And what about like in the dispatch, not dispatch area, the office area?
I will let Michael answer that one because she's had to go back and redo work. So again, that
Okay.
was taking
And I know that is difficult.
double taking Michael. You want to
Right.
speak to that a little bit, Sergeant McPherson?
That we still have to do a background on anybody that comes in here, no matter what position. For a police officer position, of course, there's so many more rules, but we still have to have an applicant that can pass, a criminal history check, and then you got to be sure, that they understand everything that's in this office is private and it doesn't get talked about in the community, and they have the skill set to do the work that's required, because so much stuff is on different agencies' software, like the crime stats that, you know, you're interested in, that's on the whole set of software. And right now, it takes everything I've got, you know, I'm putting out fires, whoever's yelling the loudest, whoever needs a report the soonest, whoever, that's my day-to-day life here. So it would be great if someone, you know, we could find someone that could come in that had that experience. That just hasn't come across our lap yet. That could fill in the holes and help me out that way. So now I end up having to either, well, not, I have to recheck work and either fix it, but it takes more time to get, it's like a double entry of everything. So it doesn't really, you know, pay or help me to have someone come in when I have to stop, you know, the stuff I'm getting done now to, you know, start over, start a training process. And, you know, if there's a perfect balance to get that all done, you know, that we have a couple of people, we are, even our former clerk, she was able to come in for a while, and it was great because this pile of citations that needed just data entry stuff, she got, you know, 80% done. And that was a huge load off, you know, my chest of stuff not getting done. But, you know, she went back to work and stuff. So it's just, there's not a perfect answer for it. And I wish there was, because I could definitely use help.
Yeah, in my opinion, the hard part is you get someone that volunteers and has the skill set to get close to what Michael does, and they can go get a job for 30, 40 bucks an hour in the valley at Eugene PD or Springfield PD or Lane County, because everybody's hurting for just as much for support staff as they are for, you know, same in the fire thing. I know the fire departments are hurting for support staff just as much as they are firefighters. And not to be blunt, but everybody gets paid more than us, so. So the last time we did the data for the police department, pretty much statewide, Michael and I were very underpaid. Our officers were towards, and when I'm talking agencies our size. So agencies our size, and the officers were about 3/4 down in that. And there was another agency just doing one for that, and they're going to share that data with us. I believe it was NISA. Was it NISA, Sergeant? And they're going to share the data with us when they're done. They did a similar agencies to our side data for their union, because they're going into negotiations that are kind of rough negotiations there. So both sides got attorneys to do data on what departments our side got paid. So, and I know looking at fire stuff when I was wearing the fire hat, that our fire guys are also not I mean, for Oakridge, sometimes I hear that a lot, that we get paid too much, but I'm the lowest paid chief in Lane County. And I always laugh because I should get paid more than Larry, because we're a lot bigger than Coburg. So Larry, but and same with our firefighters. I mean, really came down to it right now. Scott had a bunch of young whippersnappers that were looking to get into this career. They can get snapped up by Eugene Springfield Fire Department because they're begging for people too. So
We can't keep them.
yeah, it's the same thing. So,
You had a position posted for a year and nobody applied.
so I mean, we look at cuts, but you have to look at the cost of doing business too. It's the way I see this whole cuts thing. For it doesn't. Scott said it earlier. It's a bite out of all the departments, that the cuts are reducing of human beings, because all the other money we have, in my opinion, especially in police and fire, because I looked at those budgets a lot this year, is the M&Ss are the dispatch costs for both of us are a huge portion of our M&S budgets that people don't realize. It's just so we can get dispatched to calls, but cutting staff is, if we have to do budget cuts, this is the hard choice this council is going to have to make. Is if you have to do budget cuts, the budget cuts are going to have to be human beings, in my opinion, because in the general fund budget and the EMS budget, there's nothing else to cut but human beings.
Go ahead, Councilor Sliwa.
Yes, now, did I hear right that our officer down in Lowell is the part-time person or
No, he's a reserve
a
officer.
reserve officer? So you said that the reserve officers are gonna go away?
Not go away, but they have to ride with full-time officers. They have to be supervised by a full-time officer. They can't do stuff by themselves.
I mean, how long are we gonna be able to keep him in that position down there? And is that gonna affect us with our insurance in everything.
That'll be a conversation with the insurance company.
So how long are we gonna be able to keep him?
I don't know.
And is that going to affect anybody that would be up here to not be able to be in that position?
Well, he'll still be in his position. It's just how it is used.
No, I mean, we have him down,
Well, he lives down there. We don't
Yeah.
have him down there.
but if we had him up here, we wouldn't be able to utilize him as he is now.
No,
Is that what you're saying?
right now, Neil's my exception because of his training and experience, but new reserves is gonna be different until we find that caliber of person and then what the insurance company says too.
He's saying Neil's special and he can't replace him.
Yeah, basically, I can't replace Neil.
So in
This
essence,
community, these three communities can't
He's our-
replace Neil.
He's our unicorn.
Yeah. He writes, off the top of my head, this is not a factual number, but he writes 35 tickets to everyone else's one ticket, so.
I believe that.
Yeah.
He does, yeah.
So,
And it's fun to listen to.
yeah, so. I need him, so.
Okay, but is it, can somebody else that's up here, scream because you're letting one person do it, and not anybody across the board?
Are you talking about reserves? No. Reserves are at-will employees.
Okay, but they're at will employees, but you said that that they will have to have a ride around.
Yeah,
With
just
someone.
our other reserve Charlie always either rides with Neil or one of the full-time officers.
Do you have something?
I just wanted to ask Audie, I think what you're trying to ask is, why is it that Neil can continue working and roll by himself?
And typically
Right,
speaking, though, he
exactly.
doesn't work by himself. Charlie and Neil work together doing most of the Lowell stuff, so. But typically speaking, when they're in Lowell, they're not going to every domestic violence call or stuff like that. The sheriff's department still has to do that. Neil's mission in Lowell, as is pretty much the Oakridge Police Department, is to write tickets and to help them, like, so they do all the work for code. Like if there's a code issue of grass, the city hall, the city administrator there and the public works director do the paperwork part. But if the people are aggressive, we go serve the tickets for them, so they don't have to do that part of it. So,
Okay.
but typically speaking, excuse me, Neil does the same thing there as he does here. He writes tickets. So.
Okay. Ready to go on to finance department? Any more questions for department heads themselves?
Can I do one more shout out? Because Scott also reminded me of it. That and Colleen and I have had many. The other thing the council needs to keep in consideration is, and Colleen can, and James can too, is our infrastructure is failing. So our buildings are all falling apart. And that's pretty much the same for all departments. And that, my opinion is, because years and years ago, the administration did not care about that. And that's another reason we're in the spot we're in now. If you look at just look at the eaves right there. At some point in time, that stuff's got to get fixed or it's all going to rot. And, that's so.
Yeah.
And that stuff we have not been spending money on that I believe is a need for the city. Frankly, sometimes it hurts me as a citizen and employee. I think our building should be the nicest and have the best looking flower beds. And that may sound like a waste of money or ridiculous, but
We're like the heart of the city.
Yeah.
We're supposed to, uphold.
I've given it before, but in closing, I will give the shout out to Colleen. This place has looked the best it's looked since I've been here. So she's got a job downstairs when she's done up here. So anyways, I will.
That'll be
complain.
Yeah.
Okay, on to Colleen for the finance director's report.
A few things after another department.
Is there only one US? Is it okay to take this USB out, Jackie?
Yeah, I don't even know what that was. Just call it.
What am I opening?
I don't know, it's just, it was a stick I grabbed, what's on it?
Oh, which file is it you want me to know? See better on the screen, it's a little more clear.
Must I miss it?
I don't see any file.
If the McAfee is trying to scan it, so you might have to unplug it and put it back in and then click yes to let it scan the tires.
Well, the McAfee thing's been a couple times, I've clicked it off
Oh,
throughout, yeah.
It always comes up on our stuff.
Probably because there's something new. Wants to
And we
make sure there's no
don't
viruses.
use the Mac.
Yeah, I've done that several times for me. All these. kinds of old- Where you want to put this up?
No, I have some background stuff after I finish it.
I'm not that notebook. I don't know.
We'll help work on that, and I'll read this for you.
Okay, great, Marcy.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and read Colleen's report that she has here. She's putting some stuff on a thumb drive to have some background for you guys. City Hall Administration Public Safety Fee Status Report for August 11th, 22. We had an employee furloughed June 30th, 2020. He was paid $38,000 a year. He did a lot of city planning duties, was an assistant to the CA, and helped the police department and public works with code enforcement. Losing this employee put extra work on our remaining employees to pick up these duties while they had their own hours cut back. Primarily due to the loss of this employee, we are currently outsourcing the majority of their duties by paying LCOG, DCBS, and Northwest Code professionals over $45,000 a year on average. The attachment, I believe, is on the back that she has here. To do our planning and code permits, etc. Due to the specialized knowledge required to do these planning, permittings, and code enforcement tasks. Our accounting, court, and utility billing system is so outdated that it does not do things that our new system or that new systems can do. There is less than 800 users of it currently on the in the US because it is becoming so obsolete. It is critical that this system be updated very soon. The cost to do this is $95,000 to $100,000. This is something that can no longer keep going this way. City staff hours were cut last year down to 32 hours a week, causing employees to work harder with less hours to do their jobs. This has caused a lot of things that should have been done, like reconciling accounts, filing, and other essential duties now backed up. Now they are back to full-time status, and this is still going to take a year long or longer to get things organized and in order. Our city hall building is deteriorating. The carpets are old, wrinkled up, causing tripping hazards. The windows are single pane windows from the 60s, not energy efficient. There are also security and fire concerns for City Hall. The wall between the police department, City Hall, and library is sinking and needs to be evaluated, and there are significant electrical issues. Our computers are extremely old, average of 10 years old, need to be replaced. City staff are at their limit and cannot take on any more duties. We are understaffed due to the cuts. We are lacking sufficient equipment, and our workplace is anything but ideal. The general fund not only funds police budget, but it also funds EMS fire budget at an average budgeted amount of 1 million. There's an extra number in there. We're gonna say at least 1.5 million per year.
I wish we had that much money. We wouldn't be here right now.
That might have needed to be like
Is that number
78 cents or
for
something.
police or fire?
That's combined.
I thought that
Oh,
was.
no, that's
all.
not combined. I don't know what I did.
Combined would be over 2 million.
Yeah.
Like 1.1 and 1.2.
Colleen, you're the finance director. Okay, did you have anything for me to throw up there now, Colleen?
Oh, yes. And they're on there.
There we go. Which one did you want first? Non-department?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna screen share.
And then someone wants it.
Okay.
Did the letter from Dawn get
Yes,
put
I
out
printed it.
last time?
She sent it by email, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, does everybody in the Zoom see the shared screen? Thank you, Michael. Okay, go ahead, Colleen.
So, in the last public safety fee meeting, Dawn had put together some stuff to, show why she believes that we would still be just fine with getting rid of the public safety fee. So, some of her recommendations, I went ahead and took our actual budget for this year and made those changes to show what it would look like. So the general fund requirement's not allocated. I actually had to add something into this because we do have to pay back $100,000 of FEMA grant funds. So that needs to be put in there. We'll have to add that to our budgets that we amend this year.
And just for clarification, that was a FEMA grant funds from the FEMA clinics. We were paid in advance for it, and we simply didn't spend that much money on the FEMA clinics. A couple of them.
Yeah, we ended up spending like $30,000. And then, so to take out the 120,000 public safety fee to emergency services. And that increased our budget to emergency services up to $508,375. If you go down to the bottom, that changed our total general fund requirements. From 49.45 to 49.72,775. Yeah, 49.72,775. Okay. And then if you pull up the emergency services fund, that was the other fund that she had requests to cut. So there is a new transfer from general in there. I took out the transfer of the public safety fee. In order to get somebody to come up here and work for Oakridge, they were having a hard time getting someone to start out at the base rate. So that had to be upped to get somebody in here to help out. So that difference is showing there, which will also be done in our updated budget. So that increased, so that would increase the PERS slightly as well.
Sorry, can you say that again?
The firemen that we just hired, the EMS firemen that we just hired, we couldn't find somebody to start out at the base level, like base level, so we had to increase his wage from the 56.5 to the 66.39 in order to get somebody to work here, get some help.
Oh, so you're saying the budget needs to be adjusted in a supplemental or something
Yes,
like
it's
that?
going to
for
be
that
on the
side.
supplemental budget, correct?
Okay,
And I can explain a little bit. The reason that happened was because we didn't hire an entry level firefighter. We hired an EMS coordinator, which is a little more specialized. And with the person that we hired with his level of experience, we couldn't start him at the bottom.
right.
Just would not have been fair.
And to go back to the perspective, wasn't the entry level open for almost a year?
And nobody applied.
Yeah, so.
This is also somebody to place your prior position.
Right. It's taking the work that I did, it's taking my spot.
Okay. Where are we at, Colleen?
So then the requirements went up for emergency services now to $1,261,505.
This is what the public safety is taking out.
Correct. I know you guys have been asking for that. So if you want to pull up the general fund budget summary PDF.
New budget summary?
Yes.
Okay.
So our total resources are $4,705,136. Our total requirements are $4,982,536. Which leaves us negative 277,400.
So are you suggesting that all the numbers that I proposed here led to what you're proposing there, or
Correct.
is that including all the new adjustments that you're saying we need to
With
add?
all of our new adjustments as well. So it's you're taking out the public safety fee and making those adjustments. And then what we actually are required, what we actually need this year with the adjustments that are taking place that we didn't have at the time when we did the budget. So we thought we had, what did we think we had? 300 and something, 370 something thousand. We started with so we rolled over 168,000 from fiscal year 22. We'll be getting 374,000 this year, which will give us 542,000 from ARPA. This is all ARPA funds. After what's allocated, our ending balance of ARPA funds will be $360,000. So if we were to take our new deficit and what we have left in ARPA funds, that would leave us with $82,600. And of which, I mean, I didn't even put on there that, you know, things that like the new accounting utility billing system. We can't bill for utilities and water if we don't have a system. It's very, very like, it's urgent that we get the system. There's no longer waiting. It's just, it's so outdated, it's turning obsolete. And if we don't do it, now while we have the funds, I don't know what, I mean, I guess we'll end up borrowing money again from the water funds or something to get it in place because it has to be done. So that doesn't even leave us with enough to do that.
What was the price for getting that done?
About 95,000.
Question, does this include the money we have to pay back to FEMA?
Yes, it does now.
And just to be fair, the staff didn't know about the money that had to be paid back to FEMA until like
None of us knew. It
2
just,
weeks
yeah.
ago, 3 weeks ago. It was probably,
Only like
it was a
2
couple weeks after James was.
Yes.
It was real, total surprise.
And I would also like to make note that doing this, and, you know, Dawn stated in her note that we have contingency in the emergency fund, which really isn't a contingency. It's money, ARPA funds that are needed for things that they're lacking, equipment, stuff like that. So with this change and taking out the public safety fee and the additional requirements and stuff, they're no longer gonna have that 100,000 to have for their needed equipment and whatnot. So that would go away as well.
Why didn't the money that's currently in contingency just get budgeted for what they needed?
I think it was just a matter of, well, I don't know, because it was supposed to make the transfer last year, right? So the transfer didn't get made until I came in and did the
Oh, right.
transfer of funds. And then it just never got discussed of what exactly they needed as far as, you know, down there at the fire hall.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, you guys allocated, the council allocated 100,000 for fire and 100,000 for
That's all I got.
sewer.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't,
Yeah, but that was last year.
yeah, but it
Right.
never happened. So it never happened. So it was allocated, but was never put forth and used. So that transfer had to happen this year. That was the,
It happened last year, but now it's sitting in there as a contingency, but it really isn't. I mean,
This wasn't budgeted to be spent this year yet.
correct, so.
so it was,
that's
it
all
was a
is.
rollover because we didn't
Yeah.
have, that was Keena's advice to us is not to do, we didn't have time to do a supplemental budget because she said our supplemental budget should be done in January or February to make sure it's done correctly at that time. But so she said to roll it over to them and to the sewer, it was sewer, I think, it was for I&I.
Yeah, I.
100 for INRA.
And then some for the council chambers,
And all three of those got rolled over, right?
at least so.
Yes, all those were done this last in fiscal year 20.
Go ahead, Counselor Steele.
Okay, I'd like to ask, this new, is it software we're getting?
It is
That you
software.
need?
Yes,
Now, will our computers that we have handle? it? Because we're dealing with a
probably not. We're gonna need probably. new-
laptop over here that is out of date.
Yeah.
By how many years, I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff we can't do with it.
Mhm.
So is that gonna be part of it too? That
I believe we can,
$95,000 is
I believe we
computers?
can replace all the needed towers for, you know, maybe 5,000.
Okay, so. Do we do any of that on this laptop?
No, this is not an accounting laptop.
That's a whole nother story that Elver is, our new IT person, is trying to dig us out of our IT hole
Yeah.
citywide.
He's
So
doing very.
Well, yeah, you can even speak to that
Yeah.
downstairs.
yeah,
and
he's doing an awesome job.
Oh.
He's frustrated at us, but it's not with us, but the people that. came
Oh.
before us.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's just a lot.
So. Then that 95,000 would. Include the computers. Update computers.
I believe so. We're getting, we're meeting with the people on the program to see exactly what they have, what the breakdown would be, what the actual cost would be. That's my just kind of overall right now, what I'm looking at. It could be a little less, it could be a little more.
Because I want to make sure that. If we do get this new system, then the computers is going to be able to handle.
And yeah, they'll have to come along with the system for sure.
It's like my house. full laptop I had with doing all of our business stuff. Was not capable.
Our computers have to be replaced here regardless of a new software, because you can't, it's like, you can't get to work with a broke down truck. It's the same thing. They can't do their work without decent, up-to-date computers, and those have to be replaced for everything else in their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, my computer constantly freezes up on me if I have too much open. So frustrating, because I'll have like all these Excel sheets and Word and everything, and I have to close them all out. Let it redo, kind of catch up, open stuff back up. It's just,
So that's being worked on right now already with
That's-
the IT guy.
That's what I was gonna say is,
He's working. on it.
that's the computers that you possibly did for us.
That's all part of
Would
this
be
project
included.
going forward.
Yeah, for instance, my sergeant is very stressed out right now because one of those weird power outages we had, I don't know, was that a month ago? Michael shaking her head, yes. 23 years of reports are gone now and we may not get them back. So that's a huge stress for Mike because it was all band-aided together used stuff we had and it crashed and Elvis tried to work on it, but he has so far hasn't brought it back, and he said we could maybe send it off and have someone try to get it off, but it would be thousands and thousands of dollars for a maybe. So we're trying to work through that process now. And I think the same thing happened to their server.
yeah,
But we lost
but we
our
didn't lose that.
report expediter. So
We don't have backup partners?
we did that. It fried everything. So the power, I mean, Michael can correct me. Part of it is because it was band-aided together with other stuff. Elver's trying to fix it for us.
So does any of our computers have the surge protectors on, or?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
our, this system's it's a mess. Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilor Rutherford.
Just curious on if there's possibly any programs that would help us get that type of stuff.
I've looked, I didn't see anything.
Figured
I mean,
you
even
had
the, was it City of Lowell, Chief, you're telling me, they were in our situation and they actually were like, we have to find the money, and they actually ended up getting this program as well, because we just, it's recommended by LCOG. A lot of Oregon small cities use it. It's built for small cities, so it has all the little things that we use and need.
Right, but
Yeah.
the program is like grants and that type of thing that could help get that type.
That would be nice.
Councilor opinion?
So you're hoping to get this with ARPA money, is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, because it would fall, see, ARPA funds, I know they're sitting out there, but they have to use them, they have to fall under something, right? So that's infrastructure, period, for us. So it would fall under that in order to cover that.
And you would be doing it citywide, sounds like police.
Well, it wouldn't benefit us
You're
really
on.
because we have our system is different,
There was
but it will
something,
benefit us on the fact is once we get to train the code part, hopefully the code part, and I think there's a dog part.
there's and the court,
Yeah, so
there's court thing on there.
the side pieces will benefit us as well.
Mhm.
But what I meant was that you guys would get new computers too, so this would. And probably.
Actually, so much for it isn't, I mean, we need new computers too, but that's not necessarily the computer, as you think of a computer, that's not the problem citywide, from fire department, police department, public works, everybody. It's the IT infrastructure part, the battery backups, the actually serve the servers and that kind of
Network.
stuff. Yeah, it's the
Okay,
Well, and I don't mean to be uncouth here, but where the police servers are located, there was sewer water with feces.
well, I will say it.
You tell 'em.
City Hall literally pooped on Sergeant. That's literally. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's happened twice. Was it 2 times, Michael, in the past 6 months?
4 months.
I mean, this is the kind
I
of,
think she only got
this is
pooped
the kind of
on one.
infrastructure that we're dealing with. This is how we're working, and it's, it's sad.
Right,
It
yeah,
really
I'm not in IT, but I'm pretty sure that poop water falling onto your servers It's not good.
Is bad, yeah.
Or in Sergeant McPherson. so.
Has she not asked you for office switch?
No, she went in there to try to, her and James and Michael were here when it happened and they tried to go in there and save stuff.
Oh,
I mean, the water's fairly clear looking, but it's comes from a certain spot.
No.
It tastes fun.
I mean, we're joking about this, but in part, it's a serious thing. That's where we have evidence there, both computer evidence and regular evidence, and all of our supplies are in that room and files and.
We should just probably
Yeah.
stop talking
Yeah,
about it.
probably.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is part of our public safety issue though. Yeah.
For you.
Is there any more questions, or Colleen, did you have anything else?
I just have, I had a couple little notes here. When Chief was talking earlier about Coburg being here, I also wanted to add in that cost to have the Coburg PD here was not in our budget. It was a necessity, unbudgeted, unforeseen, just happened. Another thing is, like Jan was asking about grants. There's a lot of grants out there for things. The problem is having matching funds. We probably miss out on a lot of grants because we don't have the matching funds. If we can get to where we had matching funds, we probably take care of a lot more stuff around here. But that's essential. You've got to have that. So, I mean, a lot of grants are like that. And, you know, we're just picking up the ones where you don't. And it'd be nice to be able to have something where we could do that.
So there's, to segue off that, there's a lot of police grants. Not everybody loves the firemen. The fire personnel, a lot of their grants are, they just get the grant. There's like a little bit of matching funds, but a lot of ours are like at 45–55%. So there's lots of stuff out there, but we don't apply for a lot of them because we don't have the matching funds. So, and a lot of the infrastructure, city hall, public works stuff, they have matching fund grants, and some of they're lucky because some of those there's just that the in-kind grants, so they can work to pay the matching funds. Where a lot of the law enforcement stuff or like software stuff like that, it's just there's a grant, but it's buy half get half free type thing.
Yep. And so I just like to say that you guys, when you consider the public safety, really think about it. We have, you know, there's like Chief was saying earlier, we have to feel this out. Maybe there's an option to lower it for now, see how that goes. I think to get rid of it completely right now, it's just not a good idea, because I think something's gonna have to happen. We're gonna have to bring it back, or we're gonna have to do something else to help, or we're just not gonna have any. We're not gonna have any police, fire, EMS. I mean, so I just want you to consider that. We can work up some, you know, numbers and figure out maybe something a little more that people feel more reasonable about. So just consideration for what happens.
All right, counselors, so that is everybody's report. Just gonna open it up for more discussion. You guys want to discuss how rescinding the ordinance or lowering the fee or whatever? This is your opportunity to ask questions, get that conversation going. There's no votes today, but I do think ask all the questions. Let's keep asking questions tonight so we can fill our heads with lots of information. And confusion, yeah. We gotta come to a decision on this at some point. We can't keep saying we're gonna talk about it again. We just need to come to some decision that we're gonna follow. Counselor Zucker.
I would like to just say that as unpopular as it is, I too think we do need to do something. However, I think one of the things we should really do, and I've heard a lot of grumbling, and I've grumbled, is it's a public safety fee. Therefore, it should go a third, a third, and a third, right? Fire, police, fire, and ambulance. So I think part of the biggest problem, and I know there's a bunch of people that don't pay it. I honestly think if we had a town hall meeting, that we all could get together with the citizens that really want to know what this is all for. Have you guys explain it much better than it's ever been explained, because it's never really been explained to people. I've talked to a couple lately that have said, we're not paying it because we don't know where it's going. You know, and I'm sure Jackie's heard this, I'm sure everybody. And it's frustrating for everybody, and we need police, we need fire, we need all of that. But I think the citizens have the right to know from everybody what it's going to, how we're doing it, and why we need it. We haven't had and I have to be careful here. I don't feel that we've had enough community involvement with everybody here. We make the decisions, and I don't think citizens should be involved in all of it necessarily. However, I do think they should have a say. And then the levy went down terribly bad. That was because everybody was angry and totally divided. So I honestly think we need to have a town hall meeting someplace that has more than 25 seats.
Oh, yeah.
Because I honestly think you'd be surprised how many people would come and ask questions. And maybe more people would pay,
I can say, that is the biggest complaint, that nobody knows and they don't know anything about it.
Right, and I guess it was on the back of a bill.
No, I think it first came out with no explanation the first time. Yeah, the first time.
Well, I
Well,
think
and that.
when
that's the
she's
other-
done, if I could give it just a quick thing when Jen's done.
Well, and that's the whole thing, I think we put it through. And we knew what it was gonna be for. I didn't at the time, because I wasn't on, but if you listen, maybe you would know a little bit. But then you start getting bills and it wasn't billed the way it should have been. So, you have kind of a, well, if you're gonna do that, then keep asking for it, 'cause I'm not paying it.
Yeah,
And citizens are distrustful because of previous.
I was just gonna say,
That's
very
it.
distrustful.
Exactly.
No matter how well intentioned we are, people don't trust. it. So they need to see.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the biggest things is we have built up such a disrespect in the community for us, for the city itself, because it hasn't gone the way it should have gone, they think, and I agree to a certain extent. It's a lack of communication, like a lot of things. So that's it.
That's a great idea.
So just a piece of Jan's, I have to explain to people all the time as police chief, because they think the city has cut all my officers and they're still paying the fee, and they don't understand it. So I have to explain, no, we have a shortage because of other reasons. This is not effect of any cuts with that kind of thing. I say, well, yes, we talk about that stuff all the time, but it's the education piece, because probably weekly I have to explain to someone why it's just Valerie and I, because they think a lot of people think the council has cut it. So I have to correct them and say, no, that's not true. We had, someone's city administrator now, someone has left. We have, we have people open positions. So that money's not getting spent because there's nobody in there. It's not, the council didn't do this to the community. So, I mean, that's one thing where there's some confusion on that's completely unneeded confusion, and it's just come out of nowhere because we're short-staffed and a lot of people have said gave their frustrations to me that they're paying this money and we don't have the services that we did. And it's not, has nothing to do with nothing. It's just,
And that along that same line, you have, they expected, because the levy was gonna be to increase services, right? They expected the public safety fee was to increase services, not keep them at the same level.
That was never said though.
Well, exactly. However, that
Nothing
is
was
what they were thinking, and I think again, that's lack of communication, and we didn't present it the right way. You know, and it would make you guys' job easier, you know. Don't give me that look.
Counselor Sweeto?
Yes, if we were to hold a town hall meeting, where could we hold it? To the possibility of having,
The high school auditorium,
I was gonna
Dawn and I
say, yeah.
coordinated a.
so they
town
will
hall
let us come
recently.
back?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
good.
I would be very happy to get that ball going and start coordinating that. And I think that is really the best. You know, public education and awareness, there can never be enough of that in so many avenues. This one, absolutely.
Well, and I
But-
think all of us could participate
I-
in that.
exactly.
We could advertise it. I
We
mean,
could-
Michelle, my gosh, she can stand out in the middle of the road and scream. I don't care.
Tape it on my car.
There you go.
The one that we did for the public for the crime was actually pretty well attended. And I think if we were to have one, I think this
Oh, I
would be
do
much
too.
more. But I think having our department heads there and
Indeed.
using these reports, maybe a little bit more onto them, because some of the things you said today about reserves, you know, some of the extra dialogue, you could put that in there, and Scott could do the same thing for what it takes to be a volunteer at the fire department, but maybe beefing up your same reports you have a little bit and doing that presentation and talking about more what all the departments have gone without, and they can only go without so many years until you can't go without. You can only go without for so long, so I would absolutely be very happy to help coordinate the town hall and get that going.
Yeah, I think we all could have,
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and just like tonight, I didn't realize, well, until Robert's letter, well written, but, you know, I didn't realize we had 3 years that we have to buy our property. I mean, that in itself is,
Yeah, we learned that down here. During almost a year ago.
I think those are the type of things that the citizens should know about, you
well,
know.
it's their business.
Yeah,
I mean, in a way, it is
Yep.
their business, you know,
Yeah.
they need to know that this is why we need something.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not saying we need to up it, lower it, whatever, I'm just saying this will at least help them understand.
Yeah.
You know, and our citizens are smart,
Mhm.
you know, they can figure out things really quick. But unfortunately, we also have a rumor mill that goes faster than fact, and unfortunately, that's part of the problem. You know, so if we give them the facts, maybe that will.
Yeah.
there were some really good things that Counselor Kenyon and I did for the town hall we put together, and that was, I think the biggest one was allowing citizens to pre-submit questions. And putting those out there, I think that was huge, doing that part of it. And we could do the same exact thing and also let people speak, but yeah. Counselor Sweeto?
Yes, another thing too is having the information out there that the biggest majority of the people in here can understand that we can't just put in another levy right now. Because the time there's not enough time to do that, so it will be a year down the road before, is it a year?
It'd be May. May would be the next time.
Before we could do anything that way. So that would let the people know that, hey, you know, we can't just push it through May is that we could do anything if we want to try to go for another levy. And so that would help, you know, people out there know that you can't just jump in, well, November, you know, we're gonna vote, why can't it be on there? So it's just information that would help our citizens know what's going on.
Council opinion?
I wanna know if we can start talking about, not necessarily at this meeting, but pretty soon, we need to be talking about what is the plan for when this ordinance ends. Because that hasn't been discussed yet at all, and we're already halfway through the
3 years.
2 years, the 3 years, so, that is definitely something that we need to be working on, because obviously we're never gonna not need money, ever. We're always gonna need more money. The fact is, if even if a levy passed, it caps at a certain amount, although I did hear recently that state legislation is talking about adjusting.
So part of the town hall could be, what are we doing to fix things so that we don't need this public safety?
Yeah, we can talk about special district
Special districts committee
committee
one.
things like that.
And
We're
we're
actually
working on-
exploring and trying to.
Because I think that's gonna be the biggest question is
Yeah.
what's the end result here,
Yeah,
you know?
that's what you're
Because a
getting
lot
at,
of people
right?
are afraid that we're just going to keep increasing and just to be,
'Cause
we
the
don't
old-
care what you guys think.
Because if
The
we
old
go,
saying is
Well,
usually
think
people
about-
don't lower your taxes.
And personally, I don't want that, so.
Yeah,
if we go to a special district, that's gonna affect it because it'll take ambulance and fire out of the equation, so that won't be on the PD.
you hold it.
Right, but the taxes would be separated. Lane County's not gonna
No,
keep taking everyone's taxes,
But
they're
they're-
only gonna keep PD.
no,
Part of it would go to
it
the
still
district.
goes to the special district, but the thing is, we won't have to be worrying about the safety fee being split up if it continues to be with fire and EMS and police.
Oh,
Well, we
It would
would
be
fund-
just, if we continue a safety fee, that money would only go towards our police department.
Well, the goal would be is if we form a special district, there would not
Right,
be.
that's,
it would
That's
not
the
be a
answer.
safety fee.
That's what I was gonna say, this is supposed to be a stopgap to help us get somewhere better.
so, and that's something too that I think our citizens need to be aware of. That we're working on trying to get that. And that it's not gonna happen overnight. That it's gonna take a little bit of time to do it because we have so many people involved in, you know, it's not just the city, it's
All three.
all three. And that may be something to help us too, you know, in the town hall meeting.
Great idea.
Okay, I've taken several notes on town hall, so I think, I will bring some more, I think I'll meet with staff on that and talk to staff and get their feelings on what they would like to do too, and come back to council meeting and talk about town hall and move forward that way. But-
I'd like to suggest that it would be further out rather than sooner.
For
a
town
few
hall.
months down the
I
road, so
agree.
that it can be well planned. It could be
Well,
heavily advertised.
Yes.
It's coming, it's coming, it's coming.
Yeah.
Here's the topics. Submit your questions, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, we
Pick
could
a
even
date
put
now.
flyers in the buildings, you
Yeah.
know, stuff like that, so.
I think we also need to consider if we want it before or after the election.
We should pick a date now and, yeah, that way we start advertising. here,
Before
so-
or after the election, because that matters.
To some degree, we might.
What are we in August?
And I think citizens would want it sooner rather than later, because otherwise it just seems like we're just kicking down the road. We'll have a meeting.
Beginning to mid of October.
That's a few months.
In October, do you think that would
Yeah.
be? ample time?
I do.
Well, I have one suggestion on that to keep in mind is our wildfire situation. That we maybe
Still,
push it out a little bit more, because yeah, because there's, right now, everything's fine, but if we do get east winds, it could change the situation of the fire, so,
Next week's supposed to be really hot.
yeah, so.
We'll
If
know
we got
it's-
fire going on still, I think there'd be two things that are major for the community going on, because if it's still going on, then it's gonna be it'll be more serious, so.
That also is,
Yeah, you got a point there too.
okay, I won't say.
What? You guys can't whisper stuff.
I didn't whisper.
We don't,
No,
I didn't whisper.
but I caught exactly what she was saying, just it's a
I'm
public safety
saying that
issue.
that is a public safety issue. That is the exact time to do something so people understand the need for public safety.
correct. I agree.
I mean, wildfire is not going away, just like crime is not going away.
And they'll be out of the school.
Just like heart attacks and all those things aren't going away.
We were just talking about how it'd be nice to have a summer where we didn't have a fire that was less than 20 miles away.
I think I mentioned that about 3 days before. Something else.
Jinx it.
Thanks.
Your fault.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So are we gonna do a date?
let's do that at the council meetings. We really shouldn't, we've got to be careful on voting and making decisions out here. So,
And we have to talk to the. So
yeah,
there might
exactly.
be some-
So were you suggesting then that maybe earlier in October would be better, or even in September? Is that what you were getting at, Chief?
I don't know, I think she
I think
had,
late October. is
she
a good
had
time.
a point too of the public safety nature, so.
I just,
Yeah.
just worried that it's so close to election. Things might get personal. I don't know, it's just my concern.
Maybe it could be better after election.
No, I think it should be before election.
Should be
I think
before,
yeah.
Early October. Again, I don't want to stand up.
We'll talk about dates.
Well, let's put it on the agenda.
Right, Joe? You can't watch YouTube. Oh, okay, well, if you think you're gonna fucking cry, then TV goes off. You don't gotta watch any more TV. Because crying ain't gonna get you your fucking way. You're fucking.
He's talking to his wife.
You don't get to watch TV.
Oops.
Is there any more discussion about the public safety fee? The ordinance, anything around that, questions? I know some of the other things that were brought up was changing the ordinance too. Was that part of this conversation tonight?
Yes.
So Dawn talked about the ending date, but Colleen and I and my stint as pro tem talked a lot about it needs to be enforceable. And this is my opinion as Kevin Martin, citizen and someone who works for the city of Oakridge, that I believe should have to pay it. So a lot of the people that are getting exemptions are renters. And the water hookup belongs to someone that's getting revenue from that rental. And I'm not talking about hotels or that kind of stuff, but the rentals, the reason we get a high property tax return is we have, if not the highest, towards the highest of all property tax returns of any city in Lane County, is because we have so many rentals. So those people are making money off this, and then their renters are some getting exemptions, some are not getting exemptions. But I think the property, my thought is the property owner should have to pay that possibly, or a thought to think about.
Isn't that what it originally was talked about? Was that the,
How does
I
that
was under
apply
the
to like a mobile home
understanding.
park?
There could be specifics, but I'm mostly talking about,
residential?
yeah, single family rentals, is that someone's making a profit off that. But the person that lives there it's a touchy subject. Some people can afford to pay it, some can't. But my point to it is that someone's making money off of that.
Mhm.
And some of those places they are making a profit on are not paying the fee. That's the point I'm trying to make. So someone has an exemption.
Person living there is the one getting the benefit of the police and fire
Yes.
in this town.
Well, so is the person that owns the property.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
Yeah, because if the house catches on fire,
Are you talking about people who qualify for exemptions, the landlord should take it, or it should go to landlords first?
That's kind of a discussion for you guys, just a thought I
I
had.
just wasn't sure what you were.
And the other one that, I don't want to squirrel too much, but something the council should really think about is the Airbnbs, the Vivos, all that stuff. There's some places that are charging those places $1,000 a month, or not $100 a month, so they're paying $1,200 a year. Some places thousands that they're charging them because those people are making so much money. And I looked the other day, and like some of our cheapest ones are $40, and some of the most expensive ones are $500-600. So those
A night.
a night,
Yeah.
one night. Yeah.
Yes, there's one on the Growing Rapids, it's 460 a night.
Yeah, one of my friends that was a deputy, he's a code enforcement officer from Washington now, they have a whole program that just keeps track of those. And I think they charge, theirs is an even fee per square footage, and the smallest one is $900 a year they have to pay.
Well, we need an agenda bill for that.
For sure.
That's
Well,
coming
I
up.
thought we have a,
Coming up.
yeah, we have
Yeah, we
a,
have a webinar we're doing,
Yeah.
and that's gonna be a council for topic real
Yes.
soon.
Yeah, that's,
So Colleen, can I ask a question?
Mhm.
If the person living in the house gets the exemption, which they qualify for.
Correct.
Could we not then bill the owner of the property? Is that, I mean, I don't know the laws and rules, but
I mean, that would be part of
person-
you guys putting that in your order, you know, in the ordinance, I mean.
but we could
We
do
could,
that.
oh, yeah, for sure.
I don't know that we can do it now.
No,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I thought it was too.
I thought it was that way.
Because
Yeah.
I know my father-in-law rents at Salmon Creek Mobile Park.
Mhm.
And he got an exemption for his trailer space,
Right,
but it, see, no, I guess that doesn't make sense, because if he would have got the exemption, it never went to the owner.
It did.
Well, one of the things that a lot of people are frustrated about is people that get exemptions. Or if it's going to the property owner or the landlord, then they're just passing on to the renter anyways, even if the renter would qualify for the exemption by raising the rent.
Yeah, and that's the confusing part that I had is, that's been some of the complaints, and we did, I don't believe as cities, we've really looked into them too much, because part of it's not our business, but it's the places that have raised their rent $22 a month, but then the people are still getting, some of them allegedly are still getting paid and or having exemption, so. So technically speaking, those people could be paying an extra $44 a month instead of just 22.
There are some places in charging.
Oh, you mean because they increased their rent?
Yeah, even though allegedly, I mean, we haven't investigated it, so it's just, that's some of the rumor mill complaints.
Yeah.
Their rent got raised by $50 because what was a combination of the annual 7% that's allowed, and the rest was because the city was charging them a fee. And that's in my knowledge base for the people that are paying water's included in their rent. Because, you know, if a renter is renting in a house where it's not included, then they have their own water account, and so they've been given a public safety fee based on the water account.
Yeah.
Number.
Oh, and I've had people complain to me without research that their rent got raised $22 a month and they're paying the $22 a month, or their rent got raised $22 a month and they got an exemption. So, and I think that goes back to what Jan said too, it's education. It's, people don't know, so a lot of people are, you know, one person said this and now it's all over here. And without investigating it, we don't know what's truly true or not, so. Lots of confusion.
it is, and I think that's the worst part, because, you know, we all get the questions and we don't have all the answers, but they don't have any of them really. So.
Well, the implementation part of it, I don't think was up to the council, this administration. Yes, I don't.
However, the council can change some of the things, right?
In the ordinance.
So is there any more questions on the, one of the things I remember hearing was the, putting a lien on homes. That was a discussion topic that was addressed in council that we wanted to talk about.
I think that is.
I agree with that, Susan.
I mean, that city can
You
afford
think-
to put liens on
but
people's
she said-
homes for 22.
You know, and if
The
I
liens on
remember
homes.
correctly, if I remember correctly, our former CA had mentioned that that wasn't even in there.
It is in there.
I know, but and then
Oh, I know.
that at a meeting, it said that was not in there, and then we found it was. So I definitely think it needs to come out.
So here's something on the liens, though, like when somebody buys a home, right? The Cascade Tile, one of the title companies, this is the thing, turning liens on house. A lot of times, there's a lot of water liens on there because people left and know they're leaving, and so they leave their water bill unpaid. So this would be the same type of thing. It's not something that, you know, oh, you're not paying, we're gonna take your house. It just sits on there until they sell the house or something like that, just like their water bill.
Yeah, because if you're gonna keep this is my opinion, that
Got to
you
be
have to
enforceable.
have something that's enforceable. Because again, we have such a high rental rate. So someone's owning a house, making a profit on it, and they may or might, they just say, we're not gonna pay it. Well, that's not right. I'm a taxpayer. I pay a water bill. I pay mine. So somebody that can afford to pay it and they're not paying it, that's a problem. And the city should have some enforcement mechanism against them. They don't pay their taxes. Lane County is gonna come take their house from them after a period of time. And they get the property tax first before us. So, I mean, there's gotta be a mechanism of, I mean, that'd be like our code enforcement stuff if we had no court. I mean, what would be the purpose of having it? There's gotta be an enforcement piece. Cause it,
I would say I agree with everything that you're saying. If the people had voted and said, yeah, we're willing to pay the fee or whatever, but they made it very clear they weren't interested in a public safety increase on their taxes. So, in my opinion, I disagree with making it enforceable when we didn't give them an opportunity to even agree or disagree with.
Then there's no reason in having it. So it's either enforceable or it's not, because if we go to a town hall meeting and say, okay, so we're gonna have this public safety fee, but it's up to you whether or not you wanna pay it. What do you think everybody's gonna do? Nobody's gonna pay it.
How are you gonna get a lien if you don't have a contract with anybody saying that they have,
Right.
It's just like
they have contracts for water services,
Right.
the city of Oakridge. They sign.
it's an ordinance, right?
Oh, you mean if we make an ordinance that says you have to pay whether you like it or not?
Right, it should be enforceable.
I don't think we can enforce it because.
All
like
these
she
other
says,
cities have.
It's,
but
it is a legal
Show me
binding
there.
contract.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying, a lot of cities are doing it.
I think
And,
the
they- and
difference
they're
is
making it
other cities
enforceable.
Changed their water
and
contract.
I don't,
Yes,
We
they,
did
yeah.
not.
I don't think we can put that enforceable because how are we gonna say, okay, me?
I believe the
So
city
I don't
attorney already
pay
said
it,
it
so
was.
Yeah, I was
You're
gonna
gonna,
say,
you're gonna take me to small claims or wherever.
nobody's
It's
going
gonna
to court.
cost you more than that.
We don't go to court. A lien just sits on your house, so then when you sell it,
Okay,
we
you
get the
have to
money.
have a judgment.
Yeah, you have it, how do you get a lien without a judgment?
How
You
do
have to have a
liens work?
judgment.
When I get the
So-
lien searches from the
So when our,
title companies, that there's a section for water, sewer, miscellaneous.
But this
So it
is
would be
not
just like
attached to
that.
the water bill, right?
We've put liens on, like, one of the houses we tore down, we put a lien on that house, and that was nothing to do with water or anything else, no.
I'm just saying, if it has to be something else that we can decide on.
'Cause you
I
have
don't
to-
think that's a court process. No.
You have to have a judgment before you can put it in.
I don't know the law stuff. We have attorneys for that. So,
Maybe that's something we should have the real answers.
yeah,
I already wrote a note of it.
One last thing, if you, on the lien, I have no clue how those work. So does it just add up each time with interest or anything? Or it's just if they don't pay their $22 for
No.
2 years?
When
or
the
whatever?
accounts close, just like when the water closes, it just sits there. So,
Okay.
And liens are weird, because I know we dealt with that on one of the burnout houses, that it's like first come, first served, and we're not at the top anyway. So I think the state gets their cut first, and then the county, and I believe there's even hospital. I know of citizens that have had liens on them from the hospital, on their houses, so.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's somewhere there must be some Oregon state law that says, here's how the hierarchy works of
but
liens.
several times we do recover our water that they take off and don't pay. So it's what, when they transfer the title, it has to be paid. So,
Right.
yeah.
So
Okay.
I had a problem when I first bought my house. I had a contractor doing work. And I was told that I would be on the list, like you mentioned, to get the money, but she said there's so many people on that list, you're never gonna get your money.
Like I said, we get it for water. You're always gonna have those few.
So that might be a thing to do is find out the legalities. Can we do that?
You can
And
put it
now
on my
we've
notes.
got lawyers on
James and I will talk to the attorney about it.
the table. And it may be something that the cost to get it back is gonna overweigh the
Right.
money that we get. And like, I think Don was saying, do we charge you? Oh, Jack, okay,
Yeah, we've
So it's
never
just
done
a-
that.
Do what?
just a straight,
Charging interest.
Oh,
straight water fee.
yeah, I didn't know if that just kept, once you put a lien on it, it just keeps adding
No.
up or whatever.
I think one good thing to do too, for us as a city before the town hall, would be to see what other cities that are doing the same thing are doing. I mean, we did a little bit of research, I know I did before, and like larger city than us, but Corvallis, they have 6 or 7 fees on theirs. They have police, fire, parks, library, they have a whole bunch of them.
On their utilities.
Yes,
Um,
because theirs is called cities, they changed it to city services bill, I believe is what they did.
I'd be curious if they changed their contract every time.
Probably. But I mean, don't know.
I think that's the biggest thing with ours, is we didn't change our water contract, whereas other cities probably did that first. We just tacked something onto an existing contract.
No, we didn't. It's completely
True,
separate.
Yeah,
it
it
is
is
separate,
separate.
that's true,
There's no contract for public safety.
No,
true, that's right. Any more conversation, any other topics you guys wanted to talk about, the ordinance?
should that happen on council?
No, this is our discussion time for the public safety.
Well, without the ordinance in front of me, I'm not comfortable discussing it. I think
Yeah,
it could be a whole nother meeting.
I don't
You guys
know.
want to have another meeting on the ordinance? I feel pretty comfortable talking about the ordinance at this meeting. It is the public safety fee. It is an ordinance tied to it.
You wanna go get copies of it? And while you're doing that, I can, right? I'm not gonna
Sure.
discuss it without having.
That's fine. I'm not asking anybody to discuss it without them. I'm saying we need to get this discussion done with. We need to talk about everything we can tonight.
Okay,
And then be making a signature.
We're gonna get
This is
some
like our
copies.
fourth
yeah, Don made a
section, I
suggestion,
think, on
so
public safety.
can we take a little bit?
Sure.
They don't-
But we want to have a planning meeting. Prior. To the town hall meeting.
Mhm.
You should probably look at the historical data too, to see what the attorney has already said is okay. and
I really
what's-
think.
I think we need to ask him again, because I think some things have changed since he was initially asked. I believe the first time he was asked was when it was tied to the water bill.
Okay.
Do you remember?
We never got any documentation from our attorney except for.
We
a
did not.
mock-up. I have questions on this, I have questions on that, I think we need to talk, let's get it done.
Yep.
And that's the last update we got, but.
Yep.
The attorney. I'm really thinking that the meeting might be in. Never want to get it done, but. might be.
Well, I agree on a planning meeting for the town hall, but tonight we're talking about, the discussion tonight is regarding the fee. If we are rescinding the fee, if we are lowering the fee, if we are changing the ordinance, that is the discussion tonight. Town hall is a completely different work session discussion. So what I'm saying is tonight, we need to finish this discussion, what our intentions are, what we want to move forward, give direction to staff. Because my thing is they're all in limbo. Because they're all afraid for their budgets. They can't spend what they need to do to get their jobs done because they're waiting on counselors to make a decision. Am I right, department heads?
Correct.
I don't understand.
I mean, I know
We
for
have a
sure.
budget that explains what is.
Yes,
Yeah, we
but
have a
if they
budget with
know,
the public safety.
for instance, I'll just take Scott's, if he has to cut 20 some odd thousand from his budget, there's things he can't do right now. So he needs to know moving forward, and that would be the same for Kevin.
Because
They're in
because
limbo.
my cut's 120, so.
Yeah,
They're in limbo.
their cut's 120. Everybody, I mean, both of those.
So they need to know early if they're getting the fee rescinded.
I need a break.
Okay, let's do. How about a 9-minute break? We'll come back at 8:20.
90 minutes,
9.
9 minutes. 9 minutes.
sure, it'd be 8:30.
Okay, can I pause this Zoom?
Yep, they record it, yeah.
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 Got there.
I think.
Okay, so for everyone in the Zoom, we're gonna go ahead and pause the meeting until 8:20 and we will be back. Okay, hello, everyone. We are back from recess at 8:23. Just want to make an announcement that we will end the meeting tonight at 9 PM or sooner. And just to say for the record, I am not trying to force anybody to make a decision or anything tonight. I just want everybody to know that staff really, they are in limbo in some areas, so we need to do as much work as we can to make a set direction that's the course that we're going on, whatever it is. So if we could take a minute just for staff to maybe talk for 2 minutes on each area that your department is in limbo. Kevin, would you go first? or
Sure.
Scott?
I guess the biggest thing is we just need to know what we have to cut from this budget year. 'Cause that's your guys' direction and ordinance and to the boss and then down to us, so. You know. And it's worrisome for me because we have to pay the 90 to 100,000 back to FEMA, so that's another that large amount. There's stuff that we need to get. But again, for me, and I'm sure Scott's in the same boat, but for me, cuts means people, so that means cutting a person.
And we just hired new people. And now we have to turn around and tell them that, you know, your job is in jeopardy. That's not really fair to them.
Do you have any areas in yours that you're waiting?
There's items that we need to order for safety equipment. You know, things that we can't really live without, but if we have to, we can not purchase them. protective equipment for firefighters. Things like that we're holding off on until we know more.
Can you really do without that? That's what I was thinking.
Sorry, I just have to ask
It means you
that.
can't
As
have
a-
more
as-
volunteers.
As opposed to, cutting people, I could live with some of that more than I could cutting people. So. Really, no, but
It's like a police department could go with vests that are outdated. May or may not stop a bullet,
And that's against the law.
which is against the law too, but.
And for,
I
for,
understand where you were going.
for me, it's not really equipment. Our M&S is small. Again, a great portion of my M&S is dispatch. Have to have dispatch,
Which is going up.
which could be going up because we have to switch centers. So, me, it's a person. That's the only cuts there is. And it doesn't matter if it's a little cut, I had to cut a couple $1,000s, that's easy. But if you get into the tens of thousands of dollars, it's a person no matter what. Because we have, for patrol, I have to send someone to the academy, they have to be full-time. If for some reason, in some miracle, and some lateral wanted to come work half-time, I could do that with someone that qualified to be an Oregon State police officer. But to go to the academy, you have to be full-time, so. It's a person.
Any questions for department heads? Counselors? Everybody have the ordinance in front of them.
Speak, Kristen.
Oh, sorry. Counselor Barrington.
When this was first introduced to us, I was frankly pretty pissed off. I think everybody that followed the budget season that year would realize that. I don't think it was done properly. I don't think the notice was given properly. I think all of it was handled very poorly. By the end of budget season, obviously, I was one of the ones that compromised with where I stood with the lower fee and voted yes for it. Now into this budget season, I really don't see how we can get rid of it. I think we need to continue moving forward with special district stuff, feasibility studies. Unfortunately, I just don't see how we can get rid of the entire thing. I know it's not popular with a lot of the citizens, but I also know there's a lot of citizens that do pay it and are okay with it. So I don't know. I know, like I said, it's not popular necessarily, but when I got elected, I ran on public safety. I cannot imagine cutting more. That's why I compromised then. It's why I'm willing to compromise now.
Another thing that should be considered, and it's hard to quantify, but maybe I talk further with our insurance guy, so it's actually numbers. You know how you pay higher car insurance if you live in downtown Chicago versus somewhere safe. Being a police officer, I believe crime is rising. And as police officers, car insurance is gonna be more. So quantify that, or might be hard, but maybe our insurance guy can quantify that. Because if we express that to the public, like, okay, give her public safety, we lose property, lose environment, lose ambulance, or whatever. What is that gonna mean to your insurance rates? Which could very well be more. Like to those years ago. I think that was. At least a ballpark range. It's a shifting target though, because we don't know how much is going to be rise. That's going to be done on how much insurance rates are going to rise, but it is consideration.
Yeah.
And what if we lower the amount but make it enforcement?
I think it would make all the difference.
I mean, there's compromise.
What about lowering the amount and not having sensors?
Not have any what?
What do you think about that?
I personally don't like that.
No. I mean, I'm talking about like considerably.
Oh. Well, if you considerably low it, it might not make enough effect.
But if that's the case, you'd have to have it enforceable and the exceptions. Right. So. And part of the thing, I think. There was a. What do I want to say? The 400 people.
The petition.
That, there's all those people that their voices heard and they have stated their voices. The only problem is, again, if we do take it all completely off, it's not going to help. I mean, I'm like her. We have to come to some kind of a compromise somewhere. There has to be a compromise that nobody's gonna like it. I mean, there really is nobody that I know that's gonna want to pay all that. And all of that, $22 isn't a lot for a lot of people, but $22 is a lot for a lot of our citizens. So I really think we need to come to some kind of a compromise. Because I would hate to lose the police force. I mean, they're down far enough as it is, or, I mean.
I think I'd have to move.
Well, and it's scary to think that.
Yeah.
So, and the fire department, my gosh, I saw Chrissy one time come on a fire truck with one person.
Oh, yeah.
Put a twink in it, come on, that's not right. So it's not safe.
Well, the frustrating thing about that is, then you have citizens that go and criticize the response of the first responders when they're doing the best they can with what they have. You can't have it both. You can't pay nothing and have great response and have all these people responding. You can't have both. So.
And I think that was the problem with petition. The petition just said, hey, you want to get rid of public safety? Of course, I'd like to lower tax. It did say, you want to get rid of the public safety fee and lose a police officer and fire. It didn't take that extra step. It's something that would mean public safety fees.
They didn't put people with
Right. It was,
what was going on. They just put it out there that it's gonna happen and.
right, because if there's a petition that says, do you want to get rid of property taxes in general?
Right.
Yeah, sign me up.
Yeah.
But
Well, I agree with Jan. I think it's a matter of explaining to the citizens. Get it out there.
Yeah, because I think if people want, it's not just a quick response either, but I think it's any response, just like with the police department. It's not, and I'm not picking on the police department, but Kevin's heard it before, you guys don't respond quick enough, we call at night and there's no officer on duty. Well, Kevin's on duty once in a while, or James said you were, so.
Be careful, Jan, be careful.
you've been on duty a lot, really.
Yeah, I know, but it's just like the fire response or an ambulance response. If my husband goes down, I hope they are really quick, and I would probably say, you know what, you get here in 2 minutes, and you still wouldn't be quick enough. However,
Yes.
I want the people there to be able to do it.
Mhm.
Well, the thing that I would say, and this is a struggle for all small communities. And this is, I think, more than my opinion. I think there's a little data behind this, not exact data. But no matter what small, it doesn't matter if you're New York City or you're Oakridge or you're Westford, who only has 300. 10 to 20% of the people love you, 10 to 20% of the people more or less hate you. It's the people in the middle. Because the people that don't want the fee, absolutely, they're gonna be there. And yes, they should be listened to, but it's the people in the middle, always with any city political thing or any political thing from anywhere, is the ones you have to engage and try to get their opinions out. Because those are the people, in my opinion, for the most part, and looking at it, they're just paying their fees. They don't want it. Well, they don't say if they want it, they don't say if they don't want it. So it's the engagement, as Jan said earlier, and the mayor has said some, is the education, not just the education from us, the city out, but the education from those citizens that don't get engaged. That those are the people that go do their jobs, go do their thing, come home and with their families, and they don't ever get involved in city politics at all. And that's for someone else's decision to decide if that's good or bad. But that's the people that I've always felt, no matter where I've worked, that no one engages. So, and I have no answers for how to do that either, without
A lot of that is.
going to door and knocking on
I
doors.
was
That's the
gonna
only
think of-
way.
And a lot of that is because those are the people that just do what they're told to do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they don't wanna pay it, they tell each other they don't, but they do it anyhow. You
A
know,
lot of them understand why.
well, and that's it. And I think more people understand it now because, you know, we all have said something, but they still don't have it enough to where it's, you know, it's a realization that we can't keep, you know, keep cutting stuff. So,
And you know, especially now, the inflation is with
Yeah.
everything we're touching. I mean, it's crazy. And we have nothing to make up for that. Taxes aren't coming up. I mean, we're not getting any additional money because of it. But yet everything we're paying for has gone up.
Mhm.
And we all know that, so. It's just. Questions?
Oh, sorry. Looking in, go ahead.
I'd like to read the statement that is on the petition that people sign. I think it's important for the council to hear that part again. It says, we, the undersigned, as citizens of Oakridge, Oregon, do not believe the current ordinance for the public safety fee is an equitable, reasonable, or just method to collect revenue. We urge each city councilor to consider repealing the ordinance for the following reason. Number one, or this is the reason. More study is required to reduce expenditures in the budget. A levy in November 2020 that was proposed for the very same reasons revealed the citizens voted to quash a tax increase 2-to-1. This fee is an improper way of taxing us. We are aware that the council was pressured into enforcing an unfairly devised fee for each citizen and business within the city limits to raise the equivalent of our tax base by 50%, or roughly 500,000. That part hit home to me because right now we're collecting 1.1 million, or maybe a little closer to 0.2 in taxes, and we were asking for $500,000 more. It's half, again, of what everyone was paying. We are not obligated to replace overspent funds. Councilors represent citizens, not grievous methods to raise money. The increase was originally proposed as a threat to citizens losing emergency services. Threatening the loss of basic human services is immoral and onerous. The financial shortfall due to poor decision-making is being shouldered equally among private citizens and multi-million-dollar corporations located here, such as Dollar General and Mays. This is regressive to a population that survives largely on fixed incomes. We look to the city council to find other means to solve the problem of depleted funds. Rather than require citizens to pay more money to the city in trade for nothing, we suggest other methods such as reduced spending, selling city assets, or seeking voter approval to increase tax revenues with proper terms and time limits. And that was 100 and some odd, I don't remember.
432.
432, and did you verify?
Yes, I did, I'm the list. And I believe, I don't have my packet with me, but there was, I believe it was 432 signatures.
They were valid?
Yeah,
And wasn't there a lot of doubles though?
that's not counting the doubles.
Oh, did you
Oh.
verify that?
I've got my packet at home. I can send it to you guys with the numbers on each page.
I just know it was mentioned before, so, and I didn't know if
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah, I have it. I can send it to you. Because it's fair. I verified on each page how many there were, and there's, I don't know, all together.
And those are
marked off
citizens of
duplicates.
Oakridge residents only?
Yes.
I
Well,
thought I saw.
Westford, there was some Westford.
There was some Westford that,
Yeah,
and those-
there's
I
some
marked all those off.
paying it. Oh, you did?
I didn't count the Westers.
Because
Because that's included in their, in what they pay for our services, so I did not count their signatures.
Well, and I don't think anybody's discounting that petition. I appreciate citizens that went to the lengths to do that. I did one myself a few years back. We have to consider it, obviously, but we have to consider it as part of the whole picture as well.
But the fee isn't for nothing. That's the problem. with it.
Well, we were not promising them any increase in their services. It was to keep the same services. That's
Correct,
what they did.
which is even more of a reality that they're about to lose those. That's the reality.
Does anybody know how many sewer or water hookup, didn't we do it off water
Oh, wow.
hookups?
It was 1,152.
Thinking 1105.
Well, and Dawn, you said it was 500,000, but in the budget it's 240.
I know this petition was written when it was for the first one, when they asked for
Oh.
540.
The original, like, that's not even
$35
close.
million.
That makes more sense, I thought.
Huh?
Was that for the $35 fee?
Yes.
So if it is 1,152, I thought it was more than that, but then the recovery, if everyone paid, would be $4,128.
Maybe it's not a lot.
Maybe it's more.
I was thinking it was like 1,500 is what I had heard at one point.
Do you know, Jackie, or who does the water?
Leah. Actually, Robert. would know. Isn't that in- Had a thing.
Counselor Steele?
Yeah, I have a question here, probably would go to Chief, reduction in the incident of crime. Have we had any reduction?
We've had two of us, so that's absolutely no.
Okay,
So,
well, in here, that's what you're telling them, a reduction in the incident of crime, effective response to police calls and other public safety
Wait, Can
situations.
you read the full, what it says above that first though?
And that's what
Okay.
the fee's trying to maintain.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
saying
this
that
is-
by
Yeah.
keeping these people, it's a reduction in crime.
Whereas the council finds that the continuous and the consistent general government program offering full-time police patrols, fire protection, ambulance transport provides a multitude of economic and social benefits to the public, including but not limited to reduction in the incident of crime. Bullet point.
Yeah. so do you
Effective
understand
responses
what
to
that's
police
saying?
calls and other public safety situations. Enhanced protection of personal property.
So,
This part right here is saying that when you have police and fire in your community,
Right.
That's what. you
that's
get
what
from
you're
it.
getting when you have that in your community. You're reducing your crime, you're getting yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
Okay, when you don't have police or fire in your community, your crime's gonna go up, your house is burning down, is gonna go up. All that stuff is gonna change if you don't clear it all.
Okay,
So it's not saying that the fee will give a reduction in crime from what it already is.
Right.
okay. Now, 1.0, purpose and intent. This,
What page is that?
uh,
3?
yeah, 3. This chapter establishes a public safety fee surcharge. In the revenues generated by this fee are intent to allow the city of Oakridge to continue to offer public safety, government services, function, and materials, including law enforcement, fire protection, advanced life support, ambulance transportation. The purpose of this ordinance is to safeguard, facilitate, and increase the health and safety and welfare of the citizens, owners of developed property and businesses of the city. A reduction in the incident of crime. That's what this is saying.
It's saying right here, the purpose of this ordinance is to safeguard
Right,
what we already
that's
have,
the safeguard of what we have.
right? And
Okay, and I'm asking, are we showing a reduction in the incidents of crime?
That's not what it's saying.
I'll give you an example though. If you get rid of the police department, you're gonna get county response at their choice.
Right.
So that means blood, violence in progress, that will take an hour. Because they don't go by themselves like we do.
Right.
At least 2 of them come. So you're gonna have to wait for 2 deputies to get here from the valley in most cases. There might be one on patrol here or something, but the crime rate, in my opinion, James could say as a police officer, I won't say it'll skyrocket, but will greatly raise if there's no police here. Because you don't get a sheriff deputy here if we go away.
It has raised, hasn't it?
Well, it's raising in the entire United States.
With the public safety fee in effect right now.
That's not
That's-
the point. That's not what this is.
That's not
saying.
a causation.
This is saying that by keeping this fee, by making a public safety fee, you are reducing the increase of crime, because had we not have this fee, we are going to reduce our employees, which will be an increase in crime and all those things. So by having this implemented, it is a reduction.
Okay, so. But my thing is we've been paying it for.
It's not an extra reduction,
That is pretty famous and pretty well known.
not an extra reduction.
So parents.
No, I realize it's not extra, and it didn't say extra. It
But
says
that's
in
the
here
way you're interpreting
that
it.
if we're maintaining our own, if we're maintaining what we had, and that safety fee is to maintain what we had,
Not even.
then we're gonna get a reduction in crime.
No,
That's not what it says at
Okay,
all.
I'm reading it wrong.
I mean, and we also, I mean, everybody talks about, the elderly community here. What happens with no ambulance? I mean, it could be very, very catastrophic for our community.
That's one thing with me is if we don't have ambulance care, I'm selling my place and moving because at my age and the things is I can't afford that because we are living 50 miles from town to the closest medical facility. And with the problems I've had in the past, I'm just using me for instance, because I know what would happen and what's gonna happen. And that's not saying for everyone else what's gonna happen. But without that in here, that's why I fought so hard to keep the police and fire. Because if we don't have that, I can't afford to stay here. And it's not just the money that's coming out of my pocket for the safety fee, it's gonna be coming out of my pocket for insurance is gonna go skyrocket. Because you don't have that service in here.
So are you saying you agree to the need for the safety fee?
Pardon?
Are you saying you agree to the need for the safety fee?
Do you want to live out up here 50 miles from town without an ambulance? I don't.
You know,
Sure as hell.
and it isn't feasible for anybody.
All right, I do want to do a time check. It's 8:50 and we will end the meeting tonight at 9 PM. Counselor Hooker?
I just wanted to ask Dawn one question on the petition that you read. Was there a part on there that stated or made it sound like, hopefully I'm interpreting it right, that the reason they don't like it is the way it was done? Basically, that it's not that they're totally against that.
It says we urge the city council to consider repealing the ordinance
Right.
for the reason that more study is required on our expenditures and our taxes.
It's kind of in black and white.
Well, okay, so I wasn't understanding exactly what it was saying. Because it sounded almost like when you read it at first, that there was a section.
I think there was something that calling it unfair, right? Unfair.
Right, something like
About the
that.
the voting portion. I
Right.
think, Fair and just.
Here's the second part.
I
I
think
remember reading that too. Help me read it.
I
Yeah.
personally think that the levy would have passed if people had understood.
And that could
Oh,
be,
right here.
yeah,
We are aware the council was pressured into enforcing an unfairly devised fee for each citizen and business within city limits to raise the equivalent of our tax base by 50%. Or roughly $500,000.
And have we discussed I know it says in here about a late charge shall be attached to any public safety fee for surcharges not received by the 20th of the month. The charge will be established as an administrative fee by resolution.
Colleen, do you do?
we have not done that at all.
We don't have a.
We have not
resolution
enforced
anyway.
it.
So it's a moot point.
Yeah, we have not enforced that.
So there is no late.
No,
It's moot, so moot.
no.
Okay, so
Last-
that needs to be
8
taken
minutes.
out of there then. if there's-
I think a lot of it needs to be
Yeah.
fixed, but
So
you
the
know.
whole thing needs to be gone through. And time limited right now, I think we're gonna have to go through this thing at another meeting and go over it.
Well, let's get through what we can in the next few minutes. We can have a draft that we can be continuously working on.
My opinion, James, the mayor and the city attorney need to go through and decide legally what it needs to be, what it can be, what it can't be. Because we're throwing dartboards at a dartboard that's that big. I think this, I mean, we all have our opinions, but I think before the council can make your informed decision, you have to have what's right in this, what's wrong in this,
A
and
legal opinion.
yeah.
But you can give us things that you think need to be discussed with the attorney, and we can ask the attorney those questions.
So I have one question,
Please.
and it will be my last one. And fast. Is there a way that we could repeal it and then put it back in where it was a legal binding type thing? Can it be done?
So in other ordinances, let's say the parking ordinance, you replace it.
Mhm.
Part of the ordinance is usually all the whereases,
Right.
and usually it'll say whereas this replaces ordinance 937.
Okay,
And
that's what I
any
was
that are
wondering.
before it, I think is the
Right.
legal use part of it.
Repeal and replace.
That's what I was wondering.
We've done that on a couple, haven't we?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not, I mean,
I mean, we don't have to repeal this first and then make a new one.
Right, you have
Right,
to have your new one ready to.
right.
Yeah.
But we can do that. So where we could just do it all at one time, which would kind of solve the problem. But at the same time, they need to know what and why. So,
Council opinion?
I would like to request that we would consider removing the filing a lien against the property.
Which one is that?
It's under 7 enforcement on page, on the second to the last page. And
That was gonna be, I think, our big discussion, James and I would have with the attorney, just to see even where that stands and then come back to you guys with that information, because it seems to me that isn't that what the biggest people wanted to know, what the even legality of that was? That's a big
well,
question.
yeah, it's a big one, so that's, I'm pointing it out, but if you flip to the back page, it says under B, as an alternative to the above procedure, delinquent water bills may be turned over. Water bills?
So,
Yeah.
real quick question for me, because I noticed this when I was pro tem, that was the question that I had on both those. Because it says water bill in both parts of the enforcement.
The very first.
Yeah, water
A.
bill is, yeah, we.
That
we can
shouldn't have even
enforce
been in
water
there.
bills within- That needs. to be
So basically,
changed.
all of 7.0 needs to be.
Well, I would suggest, my opinion is that we could leave turning over to collections as our
Enforcement.
enforcement. Leave that in there, but obviously it needs to change to say public safety fee and not a water bill. And remove the lien part.
I think that should be researched too, because there's one thing a staff member asked me before, when I was still pro tem, and that was one of the staff members up here, is that you really look at how much work that they've had to do with this. So, because it has been a no new person, and that the work, I can testify to the fact that the work to do with the exemptions and then the re-exemptions, because you have to, technically, I can't remember what part it is, but you have to redo the exemptions each year.
Yeah, every year.
And it's that part has taken staff time towards taking staff time for, it's taken a lot of staff time to do. And if you're gonna have to do either liens or collections, but collections, I'm assuming is gonna have to take a lot of staff time too, because that's an arduous process as well.
Go ahead, Michelle. I know you have something. You got 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Done.
I don't have anything yet, it's just I have things going through my mind.
I wanted to point out that in section 3.0 collection, which is the third to the last page, it does state, this is something Kevin brought up earlier, that the person or entity responsible for paying the city water and sewer utility charges is also responsible for paying this public safety fee if the property is located within city limits. So in other words,
The renter.
if the renter is paying the water bill, then they pay the fee. If the owner is paying the water bill, then they pay the fee.
Mhm.
So what Kevin was saying, it should be the homeowner, right?
I don't know if
Well,
it
but
should,
then,
I don't know if it should be a combination of two, but it's more research should be done on that as well.
but then if you go on the next section, section C, so in the event that the property is not certified to connected water. Public safety fees surcharges go to the persons having the right to occupy property, so essentially the renters. If unpaid by the occupants, property the bill will be the responsibility of the property owner. It's strange to me that, so if it's a house that isn't getting city water, you're still charging the occupant, which could be a renter, not an owner. That occupant renter doesn't pay, then we charge homeowner. But that's not the case with section B. It's saying person responsible for paying the utility bill, which could be a renter.
Yeah.
They don't pay,
So
it
basically.
doesn't say anything.
So it's saying that a renter, if a renter wasn't paying their fee, then it would go to the owner of the
But
home.
only for homes that are not
Not
on
occupied.
city water.
Right,
Mhm.
okay,
So
yeah,
just a
but that
blank
would
piece of
give
property.
the renter, why pay it if it's gonna go to the homeowner anyways? The lien wouldn't, there's no consequence to them.
How are
If
they
they don't
even
own the
getting,
home, they wouldn't get a lien, right?
how are they even getting the safety fee if they don't have a water?
They're not.
bill?
they're not.
That's not true. I do not have city water and I get public safety fee.
Yes.
What?
She hasn't even got sewer.
Yeah.
No, and there's,
Anybody that I don't have sewer either. I have all well and septic. And there's a few other houses or businesses. in
Oh,
town
because
that are
of
that way.
stormwater.
I believe empty tax lots are getting.
I do not have stormwater. But no city water bill.
That is a consideration though, right? No enforcements for somebody that was a renter. A lien would mean nothing to them.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
No, this is something I brought up during all of
She
this
did.
discussion. I said, hey, what about me? I don't have a water bill. How am I gonna get billed? And they're like, don't worry, we'll make sure you get billed.
They say we're honest.
All right, guys, we're at 9:01. I promise. So I think it's, counselors, if you have any more questions on this, forward them to James, and James and I will sit down and talk to the attorney about this ordinance and things. Our city administrator is also an attorney. He can use his attorney glasses on this a little bit too. So please forward those rather sooner than later. If he can start filing them somewhere and have a
Next
better.
meeting,
or-
are we planning that?
Another.
Yeah, we're not done,
So
right?
that would be the 25th. My only concern with that is the Hazeldale Rural Fire District's meeting, and I need to attend
I'll
some
be
of
at that.
those. And Colleen needs to, and also Scott needs to, so I kind of think, yeah. I would prefer not to do the last Thursday of the month.
Does it have to be a Thursday?
It does not, we just have been doing Thursdays, so I think. What does the 24th look like for people? Wednesday, the 24th? No?
I don't know if I can guarantee Joe will be able to drive the bus that day quickly because
20,
of the extra work he has with fire camp and stuff. So,
okay.
how about a Tuesday?
So the 23rd, there's a banner, the Chambers is
Oh,
doing an
yeah.
event we need to go to. There's the 30th, which is a little touch over 2 weeks, or wait, yeah, it's a little over 2 weeks, and that is Tuesday, the 30th.
And there would be no council that week.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
be,
that
does that work? Okay,
What day did you say?
that is
30th,
Tuesday,
30th.
August 30th, 6 p.m. And I really like us all being in person if we could do that again.
Yes,
And we are making progress on the council chambers, but
I like it.
yeah,
Is that a work session?
yeah, if that works for everybody, let's do another work session.
What was it, the 30th?
The 30th at 6 p.m.
At 6 p.m.?
6 p.m.
Hopefully that can be the
Hopefully by then we can have a date chosen too for a town hall. We can start making a list of, I've already got it running. All right. Everyone on Zoom,
Well, I
thank
think
you for
we should-
joining us. Do you have anything else before I adjourn?
Yeah, I think we should set a real quick deadline for when we should have information, James,
Good call.
to research on
The city ordinance.
ordinance.
Can we email
Let's
that?
go halfway between the ordinance.
How about-
No,
No, for the
deadline to
get questions.
go through your ordinance and write
Oh,
down
okay.
all your questions and send them to James.
How about,
Because we'll need time for the attorney to respond.
yeah, if we need time for us to
Mhm.
meet with the
Actually,
attorney, him to respond, and then us to make the edits.
Yep.
And then have some.
About a week.
I was gonna say the 19th, that's a Friday, a week from tomorrow, that gives everybody the weekend all week. Friday morning. If everybody will have it, huh?
I doubt.
No, to get those to you.
Right.
No, for them to get our questions to us.
The council, and then
You can
you.
question me.
Yes.
I may not be able to answer all of them.
No, I
but then
know,
that gives them till the next meeting for you guys.
then
to
you and I
see.
can meet with the attorney.
I don't think the attorney can answer this in 11 days.
Oh, you don't?
Oh,
Yeah, it
okay.
takes them a long time.
Oh,
So what about the 26th?
How about, no, that's further out. How about the 16th? That gives everybody tomorrow, all weekend, Monday and Tuesday. Is that a little bit closer? Or even Monday the 15th? That's this whole weekend.
So how about end of business Monday? And we'll give it our best shot. We'll have to alter our,
I think by Tuesday would be fine. Because I'm not doing on Monday. for my community.
okay,
So we need them by Tuesday, 8 AM.
Tuesday, 8 AM.
Yeah.
You got it now?
I'll send an email.
Put it on my calendar.
Oh,
What do you mean? I didn't
All right,
write it.
is there anything else?
Like,
I feel good. Good. Everybody good? Good?
Thank you for letting staff have some input. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's very
Your,
important.
their input is the most important.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, everyone on Zoom. Meeting adjourned at 9:06 PM.
Okay, I know one of the meetings were off from this.